Hello, and welcome to Spotlight, the official podcast of Grapple. I'm Benno.
I'm JP.
And I'm Matty.
And I'm back in the chair. Feels right, lads. I've missed you over the last couple of weeks. We've just been in the pre-show. Thank you, mate. Just talking some of my exploits in New York and Toronto, amidst a very ropey internet connection, unfortunately, as well as Matty's exploits in London. But yeah, while I've been having me fill of American and Canadian food and drink, I've missed it. I've kind of missed it. Just sitting here, catching up with you guys, and this feels like home. It feels like I'm in the right place. I did get off a flight about 8 hours ago, so bear with me today, folks. I'm operating on very minimal sleep, and I'm still on very much on North American time, Matty. But that's kind of normal, isn't it?
I was going to say, what else is new there, Ben?
I was going to say, you've never been off the North American time, have you?
It did feel natural. It's got to be said. It did feel like that was the weirdest thing, like being out there, where it was like it'd be like 8 at night, or it'd be like last night, Monday night, it was 8:30, and I looked on my phone and people were tweeting about some CM Punk promo, and I was like, what's going on? What's happened? Oh yeah, Raw's on. It never became normal at any point. We stayed at this hotel in New York, and I was like 9 o'clock before I realised. I was like, I could put the telly on here and just put AEW Dynamite on, or just put Raw on. It's literally on at a normal time. It didn't feel right. I never felt ready for it at any point. For me, wrestling can only be on at 1 a.m. It's the only way it makes sense.
You should have put Big Bang on first, Ben, to be honest with you.
That would help with the numbers. I understand how that happens now. I get it. But yeah, that's it. You did a cracking job, obviously, in my absence. Very much enjoyed the audio I managed to catch up with. There was a point where me and Steph were in Brooklyn, sat in like this really nice. There's like this like front where like the Hudson River is, and they've got like nice little benches set up. It was like 30 degrees. We're sitting back. Steph had her headphones in. I was like, "Oh, what are you listening to there?" Spotlight. She's like, "Oh, you won't believe what JP just said. You won't believe what Garrett just said." trying to relax here, trying to chill and enjoy the New York skyline. Couldn't escape this, lads. You would if you weren't in my headphones, you were in Steph's. That happened a couple of times. We'd go up with like Braden and Davey, and then get back and we put up next on the speakers or something like that. Or like I say, throw yous on, throw John and Way on. It's all part of it, all fun.
As JP, you said it though, like. We missed him, didn't we, JP?
Oh, we did.
Definitely missed him.
We absolutely did as well. And it's just, honestly, it's just a testament to yourself that when you're away for those 2 weeks, not only the blind panic, but the sheer volume of work you do. Like, it's like, oh my God, it becomes like a parody as well. So it was like, absolutely, like, it's you sort of, I suppose we never say it enough, do we, as well? But like, really massively appreciate it. But it was a well-deserved break that you had from it as well.
Thank you for keeping the lights on and such, and obviously it's a team effort, so thank you for keeping things running as well. You say that like I had a break. I didn't do any Grapple podcast, but I did podcast with Braden and Davey, which at the time I'd lost my voice as well, which I'm still not sure whether I had a sore throat or I'd just eaten too much crap at that point, Matty, and my body was just rejecting it. That could have been possibly what that was, but I did a behind the BDE with those lads. I ended up doing a Fightful preview stream with Steph when I finally got my voice back. Very professional performance by me. I would say I was struggling with that one, but it's to get through it. Yeah, I know that Fightful audience. They didn't see the real Benno. You only get that over on Grapple, but we did our best on that one. That was fun, and I did the post summit as well with John and Way and that. So yeah, some break from podcasting that was. It was pretty much a podcast every couple of days.
But Ben, as Andy said in the chat, are you aware of your big match with Nick Gage, or are you fully aware of what's going on?
I mean, that's why Gareth won, innit? Like, well, I mean, I'm taking credit for it, right? I was gutted to miss the charity stream because that was one of the days I was traveling. That's when we flew to New York. Nice little 1 hour flight over from Toronto. But yeah, while I was in the air, yous were on. I've got the whole like 12 hours downloaded on my phone there, so I do want to catch up fully at some point. Davey was saying trying to edit that was breaking his PC as well. It was such a mammoth effort from Martin. But I had my spies, Matty. I did what was going on. I knew, as soon as Gareth, signed me, obviously I charged him a high rate. It was, all I can eat in buffalo wings and big gulps, which he paid for in Canadian dollars. Of course he was doing it, of course. That plus the graphics, that might have helped too. Plus his good card, bit of both.
Mate, the graphic he did was incredible, and he absolutely did it. He was he was going all out for the victory on this one, wasn't he, Gareth? He wasn't fucking around. But I finished last as always, but I'm shit at drafts. So I've learned to live with that in life. I was shit in an FPL draft, shit in this one as well. But there were some great wacky matches in there. But when he mentioned your name, like the time wrestlers fucking lost it at that stage.
How was Martin doing at that point? Was he holding it together? Like I said, he's the marathon man of podcast.
Oh, he's legendary for doing.
Piece of piss for him, no?
Yeah.
Like at this stage, I just look at him and he just seems to absolutely nail this as well. But he did like phenomenal work as well, considering the all for the Maddie Cusack Foundation as well. So like he raised a load of money for that. But if you haven't had a chance to go back and listen to it, go and listen to that on the Poison Rana feed as well. Just like incredible stuff.
Definitely, and yeah, if you join their Patreon, like I say, you'll get me over there and behind the BDE where we also did the hot the challenge from Hot Ones on YouTube, Matty, the dab, the
last dab
sauce. Is it called the bomb or something like that? Whatever.
No, the bomb beyond insanity, Ben. That's like number 8, and that breaks everyone. So everyone who's doing well gets up to that. It's not the last one, but it's number 8. Is it
That's
bad?
the one. So like, I had no voice. Those lads conned me into doing a podcast, and they're very lovely flat, by the way. It's fucking incredible. Like the pictures you see don't do it justice. We did a great photo shoot on the roof with the Rogers Centre behind us, which I didn't put together at any point that it was a giant dome-like structure, that it was actually the Toronto Sky Dome. I just thought it was another arena. So I've got a load of photos. If I'd have known, Matty, I'd have been on top of their building just visualising Rock and Hogan or Hogan and Warrior. But they are literally that central. They're right there in front of the CN Tower as well. But yeah, they conned me into doing a podcast with them, and just as my voice was about to go, they were like, "Oh, you like hot food, don't you, Benno? Want to do a challenge?" And we had that sauce. Honest to God, blew my fucking head off. You can hear that audio. I struggled to get
I'm gonna listen to that.
It was a hell of a time with the lads. Really, really like doing that. So yeah, that's how it's obviously the post media summit I did with I was very proud to be part of. With I think we're calling it a summit now rather than a state of wrestling media, rather than to ruffle too many feathers. But just being sat there opposite John Pollock and Wei Ting's big enough for me, but Brandon Thurston being there as well, and Steph being there as well, who's clearly far more qualified than me to talk such matters, was unbelievable. And I think Wei Ting, who's a professional podcaster unlike us, is going to tweak the audio a little bit before it comes out on Sunday, so you can't hear too many of the people celebrating my Montreal friend and others celebrating the England goals going in the background of the wide open bar where we were recording that. But can't wait for people to hear that, and that'll be out as well. So yeah, that's my personal plugs. But bigger than that, like I say, yeah, you did a lot of work while I was gone. I haven't caught up with Bretro yet, Matty, but I did listen to observe this on the plane as well. JP, stellar work from you and Gareth. 2013, what a year! The year of what's CM? I'd forgotten about CM Punk and his lawsuit with his mum. Very Marshall Mathers. That enjoyed just talking about that. Bit of Infinite Promotions in there, bit of GBW. It was a great little trip down memory lane.
I was hoping you two had gone to In Your Scouse by Infinite Promotion. But you were there. I wondered that. We wondered that at the time. Like, what a name! Just
and like the GPW 10-year anniversary show. I was there too.
Incredible, but yeah, it's like 1 year before the end of like Power Slam as a physical magazine. So like it was like a bit of a like kind of mind blowing as well. Stately Wayne Manor isn't there, but he also is there. He's very much Schrodinger's twat as opposed to Schrodinger's cat there as well. But he is kind of there. So we went into that, and then all of the articles and all of the various sort of news around the time. It was brilliant. A great whistle stop tour around 2013 as well. So yeah, that we did that show yesterday. So that's up there on the site as well.
There you go, definitely. Check that out, and plenty more coming in July as well. But we got to have a lot to talk about. A lot of me telling stories. I already done the pre-show where I'm basically like that. Like in the 90s when people would get out like their own little homemade projector and they're showing you the holiday photos. Just imagine that in audio form. That's pretty much what I've done on the pre-show. I'm gonna keep it going on the main show as well as you. Obviously, we're very much in tune and did a very good job at the Forbidden Forbidden Door review last week, which feels like it was 6,000 years ago.
I'm gonna say
at this point. Especially for me. I've done a lot since then, you know. But it was only like a week and a half ago, apparently. But I was gonna follow up with kind of a few I suppose notes for me kind of going there, because like obviously I was in Toronto, and you know we made the trip out to New York. Got conned into the idea that this was at a New York show. I don't think it really counts. I think it was at a bit of a train journey away. It wasn't too bad, the journey. We almost struggled to get back because, of course, Tony Khan runs a very long shift. It was like something like 1 a.m. where me and Steph were like Steph's in the media thing, and I'm stood out on the street with the last train at 1:30, thinking, is there any chance Tony Khan is going to get this media scrum done before then? Absolutely not. She ended up leaving just so that we could make that last train back to New York. But it was a little bit of a track out there. I'd like to say I saw some Long Island for you, Matty, so I can give you some ins and outs, or some Queens. We just went through it on the train. I saw the train stops. It looked nice enough.
nice.
But yeah, so you seemed relatively positive on the show when you did it. Even you, Matty, you know, Kanosuke Takeshita's biggest fan coming out of that weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what he does all in the G1. Amazingly enough, JP, that's the
not a sentence I expected to hear again. That one.
Yeah, it was just one of them shows, JP. Win. I mean, you know, I think you were slightly more negative. Would you say, JP?
I think it's and I don't know how you were there live, Ben. And this is the big question I had for you necessarily was the show length just like, was it a problem? Because I found like, I had to be a completist for it and watch all of the pre-show as well. 15 matches. We're going to talk about like from feast to famine later on when it comes to pay-per-view matches, but like 15 matches. How much of an endurance did it feel like an endurance test?
To an extent, we were smart about it. So like we were staying central New York, so we were quite, to be honest, it wasn't too bad. We got the Long Island Railroad, I think it's called. Again, very American name, Matty, you know, I was marking out for that. So we weren't far from Grand Central, so it wasn't too bad for us to get out. So it's only like half an hour, 40 minutes. I know Platt went out a bit early in the day, but we timed it so that we were literally going there just as the pre-show started, and then we made the executive decision to like, well, just let's not be in our seats on the pre-show, because the show is fucking 18 years longer, has a load of matches. And as Steph said in the chat there, she used the media thing, and there's, you know, those media, like, I think Tony Khan had wrestlers doing dances, he had, you know, like this weird performance post-show going on and stuff like that. Even without that, we knew it was going to be a long day. So yeah, we tried to be tactical with it, really. And again, UBS Arena's hardly one. Like I've got a list of like arenas that are cool to see, you know, like say, yeah, you got a few of my photos, Matty, of outside the Maple Leaf Gardens, stood outside there visualizing 80s WWF house shows with Andre the Giant and such like that. And once I figured out what it was, the Sky Dome, there's arenas like that you want to get to. UBS Arena, I didn't even know what it was, and it was like, yeah, we realized it was so far out of town. It was like, let's just go watch the show and spend as little time there as we can. So we did. We literally sat in the bar. There's like a bar connected to it, and we sat there for the pre-show, and I watched the pre-show on my phone. It was the only way to make it work. It was just like, you know, the only way I'm going to get through a show that long. I've got to say, the bar next door didn't have any AEW player. Despite the pre-show being for free on YouTube, they were still showing baseball highlights from the day or something like that. Even outside, to be honest, one of my big takeaways, we were in New York for 4 days. I would have known the show was going on if, you know, I wasn't tuned in, because you don't see any advertising. Even outside the arena, there's a gigantic billboard with all the different shows that are coming up there. Like, you know, I'm going to do a lot of comparisons to the WWE shows I went to over there the last couple of weeks. You know, we were outside the Scotiabank, and there's, you know, an advert for the SmackDown that you're at, an advert for Money in the Bank the next day, Heatwave on the Sunday, amongst all the other big things. You don't get that with AEW. Like, you'd literally not know they were on. It was just adverts for, like, you know, the Long Islanders or whatever they're called, like sports games and concerts and stuff like that. There's just that. It is, and I think it being an arena that was out the way as well made it feel a little bit tin pot, and made it feel a little bit like not really the same. It was like there was from listening to you guys' review on it and just kind of being there, it just felt like there was an overall, you could feel the difference between being at a WWE show and you walk into the arena and the fans are all buzzing and everyone's all excited, and Forbidden Door, where it was like, we're on the Long Island Railroad, we get out there, there are fans around, but it's kind of not that party atmosphere. It wasn't that exciting. It didn't want to make me get into the building anytime soon, and it was like, yeah, I'll get to my seat once the main show starts, because I'm about as excited as everybody else is here.
Sorry to butt in, but that sounds a bit like, because this is one of the bigger crowds they had as well, though, Ben, in a long time, done nearly 10,000, so you're not even getting that buzz with a bigger crowd as well. It's strange, that.
Yeah, it was weird, and like, as a live experience, I had a good time. I'm obviously not going to go through all the matches, you already did that, but it was a slog, there being that many matches. I think there's pros and cons to the two styles, you know, as Andy's kind of joking about with the WWE card. Yeah, there's long breaks between matches. I don't hate that live, though. It means you can go and get something to eat, you can go and get a drink. We did, unfortunately, have to sit through the WrestleMania XL behind the curtain advert far too many times over the weekend, which made no sense to me. Why are they showing a documentary that's like completely breaking kayfabe, and then 2 minutes later, here comes Seth Rollins for his match, and it's like, okay, so am I not to believe, like, what universe? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't mind breaking kayfabe, but like, while I'm in the arena, maybe don't tell me how the sausage is made, like, on the big screen while I'm there. But they use a lot of the time for that. Yeah, they're showing those types of things in the arena, but it actually maybe makes for a better experience, because I think with AEW it really was that. It was like the match would finish, like the Danielson match, you know, Danielson's in the ring wanting to like kind of soak in the cheers, and he's literally gotten to the second rope and the lights have gone out because the shuffling everybody out to get everybody in for the next match as well. Nothing really has time to breathe when there's that many matches, and it's a daunting prospect, and it's like, you don't know. You're like, when can I get up and go and get a drink or go to the toilet?
You've got to miss some matches. You've got to miss some wrestling. Yeah.
Flowing at you right away. It wasn't so bad for us, like I say, in being tactical and skipping the pre-show, but I think we were smart about it. I ended up possibly sneaking into a slightly better seat after the first couple of matches. It was a nice cushioned seat, so I had a nice live experience. So that made things a little bit better. I ended up sat basically where I ended up sat. We had the wrestlers' friends and family behind us, so I had Papa Briscoe behind me. So for all the talk of the atmosphere being a bit ropey, and it was at times when I've got Papa Briscoe chanting for he kept going, "Come on, pockets!" Like a Bizarro World Nice Jim Cornette, big Orange Cassidy fan. Is Papa Briscoe and the Briscoe fan, Briscoe family. Like, that helped my atmosphere, to be honest, because he was into it so much and it helped it. But I was still sat there looking around thinking, this audience is exhausted. Like, everybody here is just like, the people seem to be into. It wasn't that it was a dead crowd entirely, and it wasn't like it was empty. There were dotted empty seats around, but it seemed like people in their little pockets were into certain wrestlers or into certain moves, and they pop for them. But as far as an entire concept and as far as being into the cards as a whole, you could just feel just a lack of engagement, and especially compared to the WWE shows we were at, where you could tell everybody in those audiences, you know, whether you want to look down on people who are into you know, what WWE provides, you know, your big entrances and your catchphrases and your whatever, and some might. The crowds that are into that stuff are really into that. They're living and dying by the finishes. They're living and dying by the guys coming out. And it didn't feel like that at Forbidden Door. It just felt like people were there. It's like, yeah, there's this particular match I want to see, or I bought these tickets a few months ago when I was a bit more into AEW. Nobody actually seemed that into what was going on, maybe main event aside.
Oh, God. I mean, did you have the same kind of, like, because it was the thing that did carry across on the TV for us, is the crowd at times were just like, they were gone. And I thought, there's probably good bloody reason. I've just sat through an absolute like monster of a show. They'd be completely.
Why would they care? It's like,
yeah,
you know, the people who are into like, so all the obvious live acts are still over. The Acclaimed are still over. You know, as much as we hate them, you know, the live crowd's gonna be into them. A live crowd's gonna be into certain guys. But then even with the Acclaimed, they're into them for the entrance. And then the match happens and it's dead again, because it's, you know, the Young Bucks running comedy, really, and a match that, again, nobody really cared about that had particular stakes. The Naito Moxley match, like, I was on our Discord, like, I was putting messages in going, lads, you won't believe this botch that's about to happen, and then waiting 2 minutes for it to appear on the Fight Feed, and everyone to go, oh, fucking hell, what was that? Watching that in person, it was an awkward match in execution, but it was awkward to watch, because you could just, like, why would a crowd in Long Island in the year 2024 cared about the IWGP title? Like, why would they care? Like, there were definitely pockets, again, talk about like there being weird little pockets of people who were into certain guys. There were people there who were definitely into Naito. He still felt like the biggest star of the New Japan guys. So he kind of got like that token pop when he came out, and a couple of Naito fans and stuff like that. But even those people weren't enough to sustain an atmosphere in an arena. Where did anyone really care whether Moxley was going to win the IWGP title, keep the IWGP title? Moxley didn't seem to look like he cared.
He looks so disinterested. It's beyond belief.
He looks checked out beyond belief.
That's the word. Checked out. Yeah.
He looks to me like he sees everything we see. With AEW right now, who knows? But yeah, he didn't look arsed into the concept at all, and it just felt like that was the biggest thing. It felt like this is a pretty good crowd for AEW on current form, but it still feels like a crowd that aren't that invested. It still feels like a crowd at a very cold promotion, and it feels like a promotion that's in rebuild right now. And there's gonna be a lot of like these awkward shows like this, and you know, maybe the concept doesn't help either, because yeah, like you talked about, who wants a forbidden door, and you know, in 2024, like there isn't a forbidden door. I mean,
they all wrestle for AEW
things with it.
Don't they?
Yeah, but even then, you could have done something with that. You could have been, you know, Ospreay and Okada and all Jay White are on. You know, Jay White doesn't get a match. Are all on the AEW side now, so they're gonna face the New Japan guys they used to work with. Not as appetizing as the old way, but still something. But the New Japan side doesn't have the guys you can slot into there to do that. So the concept is just ice cold, and it felt ice cold through the night. And yeah, that was the other big difference I'd say between the live experience of both. And I know people are sick of us talking about merch and such at live shows, but it's so noticeable when you go to AEW shows. I went to 3 WWE shows over the weekend, one just being a SmackDown taping. You can't move. You've got a shop set up a bit down the road from the arena where you could get a fucking Pharaoh the dog. You know, Steph's got one. You could get like a t-shirt for every wrestler on the show. Multiple t-shirts. Imagine that. For the big stars like Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. You can buy be sold out of Money in the Bank briefcases. You know, I know a couple of people who wanted to buy ones and you couldn't get them because the shop sold out. And it's like a little Undertaker plush toys, and just, it's a proper superstore. And I don't expect AEW to be on that level of WWE. They're a gigantic corporate machine who've been at this for, many, many more years than AEW. But the difference is night and day, because you go to the AEW show and, like, what are they selling in the arena? I put a picture on Twitter. I ended up deleting the tweet because you know what happens when you tweet that out. But, like, I tweeted out a picture of it, and it's like a I was here t-shirt, like 3 variations of that, like 1 LIJ t-shirt, 1, and I think this is unforgivable, MJF t-shirt. 1 MJF in Long Island, 1 t-shirt. And then there's like, maybe I can't even think of other singles guys who had t-shirts. Like there's a cavalcade of people high up on the card at AEW who aren't represented. Didn't see much for Swerve. Don't see, obviously Hangman was out at that point, but you don't see much for the likes of him. I saw lots of Ospreay merchandise in the arena, none of it on sale. People seem to be important that. I don't know where they're getting it from. I did see a lot of that knocking around, but I think the knock-on effect is, and people might go, this is just, people having a go at AEW and not seeing the differences in the size of the two companies, etc. But, like, I think it matters because, yeah, there might even be a logic to it. AEW might have a spreadsheet somewhere that says, we could bring a t-shirt for every wrestler, we could bring foam fingers for the Acclaimed, but if we do that, we're not going to sell anymore, we're not going to make any more money, so what's the point? And I think that massively misses what I experienced going to all those WWE shows over the weekend. It makes everyone feel more part of the show. It makes people feel like bigger stars. Just naturally, if you're walking around and you're seeing loads of people in like Swerve Strickland t-shirts, it's Austin you're wearing an Austin t-shirt right now, Matty. Do you know what I mean? Like there's that cumulative effect of like it makes people feel like bigger stars. Instead, you're in an arena where people have either brought their own merch from home, or they're wearing WWE t-shirts, or they're wearing very old AEW t-shirts, if that. Like, you're massively missing a trick with that. Like, it's a little hidden life hack you can do to get your wrestlers more over and to make them feel like bigger stars. And AEW just don't do it. Like, literally, I was on the middle floor, which is like the main floor, like the 100 sections where the majority of people were. 2 stands entirely AEW had with that same 5 or 6 selection of t-shirts. And again, compare that to WWE. You've got fucking stalls set up around the arena on the streets and a shop and stuff you can buy in there. It's night and day. And I do think those little things make a huge difference. And it adds to the feeling that AEW is cold right now, because when you're hot, NBA players wearing Austin 316 t-shirts and NWO t-shirts, you know what I mean? When you're not hot, it feels like what it felt like there in the UBS arena.
I mean, at least WCW got NWO shirts made. I know they were shit in terms of things like they got one DVD that they ever made out of it. But bloody hell, this is a problem as well. That how long ago was it when you were at Double or Nothing? Like that was
2022.
2022, and it doesn't seem like it almost seems like it's regressed. If not,
it's worse. It's definitely worse. Yeah,
that's scandalous. I know I bang on about infrastructure quite often. This is part of what infrastructure is, and particularly if you're a wrestler as well, and you're dependent as part of what you're going to be earning is going to be linked to merchandise sales. You're going to be livid. Because you're going to go, right, we're just relying on an online store that basically goes to PWTs, and then that's it. That's all I'm going to be getting. So if you go to AEW, you might have a nice flat salary. You're not going to be getting any, like, what you're going to get in the way of bonuses, merchandise. Like you say, it's that perception, because you want to feel like a big company. It's like you need to have a presence, and there's no, like you say, there's no presence. We're not going to see it in the run up to, like, as much as they should be appearing on This Morning and everything else. No, we're not going to see any of that, are we? They're not going to be organized enough to get like shit like that in place.
But actually, losing market share in so many ways, and that's another like unsaid way of it.
As you said, though, Benno, you're not expecting big superstores, or you're expecting a few stands in the arena. They should be milking like MJF scarf still. They should be having Orange Cassidy merchandise. You know what I mean? It's so.
This is acclaimed phone.
I know the Briscoe family would have bought all that Orange Cassidy merchandise.
It's right, the biggest babyface that they've created themselves. One of the originals.
Yeah, and it's got to be said, like they're all the negatives. Positive wise, the wrestling was 20 times better than AEW. I'm going to talk about NXT Heatwave later, and I've seen all loads of praise for it. I was just sat there in the arena going, why are these people cheering? Like, what is going on? That was night and day. That is absolutely AEW's strength, and you can feel maybe the AEW audience is there for something. I did a long post about it on the Discord. I don't think that means, do the fans are lesser than because they're into the other aspects of it. I think they love wrestling. They just love wrestling, the medium of wrestling, and the storytelling you can do with wrestling, with promos and characters and catchphrases and moments and all of those things. That's part. If wrestling is the TV show you see on TV, that's all part of wrestling. It isn't just the matches. But what AEW's strength is, and maybe its weaknesses, maybe not doing some of those things as well, or even trying to impersonate WWE too much with them, is the matches. Like, there wasn't a match over the 2 weeks I saw better than, a couple of the matches on AEW. Zack Sabre Jr., Orange Cassidy. I absolutely love that live. Again, maybe it helped that I had Papa Briscoe behind me going wild for it, but that was great. Maybe Danielson Shingo wasn't quite up to the standard I was hoping for going in, but it was so cool to see those two pros like that going at it, live right in front of my eyes. Absolutely, love seeing that. And, as far as like the top end of the AEW show goes, Naito and Moxley was a complete embarrassment, and kind of just told you Naito was finished and Moxley doesn't seem to care much anymore. But Swerve and Ospreay was a glimpse of what AEW should be. And, we're going to talk about some of the other positives coming out of AEW's TV over the last week. Like, I came out of that show being like, yep, these are the guys you build around. Your main characters in AEW. I suppose MJF has to be one of them. I don't really want him to be, but okay. Swerve Strickland, Will Ospreay, Hangman Page. The rest of the roster should just operate in orbit around them. Like, their things should be the main things on AEW TV for the next year. And let's hope it gets us somewhere. Because in isolation, Ospreay and Swerve as a match, like, it was the hottest the crowd were at any point. Everybody was into it. I thought Swerve, for me, this was almost like his coming home party. He's had a lot of teething issues with this title run, and there's been some bad booking and there's some bad placements of him, but slowly but surely they've been slotting him a lot better on the shows, giving him more promo time, making him feel like the most important character. And I would say, as a positive, that work felt like it paid off. The crowd treated him like he was the biggest star in the company, maybe, with Ospreay as the other one, and he felt like it. He felt like finally comfortable, in his own shoes out there, and him and Ospreay were just gigantically over and went out there and just had a killer match that I was jumping up in my seat, absolutely loving. Wouldn't quite go 5 stars that I've seen some go, but it was in the live bias, but in the high 4s for me, and it was really a glimpse of what is the good of AEW right now. It's those guys are hot. Lean into that, make that your identity, make it Swerve, Ospreay, Hangman, and I guess MJF, and go forward with it. Like, it really felt like there was just a change and just a feeling in the building when that match happened. And like Ospreay again, like I say, saw loads of his merch over the weekend. The Americans and and the others traveling there treat him like he's the biggest star in the world right now, and that's great. Lean into that, go with it, and that's great to see. So there are absolutely positives, I'd say, from there, JP, as well.
Yeah, it sounds like pretty much on the thoughts of the overall matches, you're not a million miles away from where we were in terms of perhaps some of the highs and lows. But that was like me and Matty went 4.5 stars on that main each, didn't we? And we were like, Gareth was at 4.25, so I don't know why he hated it so much. But it was like that feeling of like, okay, it felt like it almost felt like this show is like a contractual obligation that they have to get out of the way because they're going to be doing these shows with New Japan. But this is almost like where the reset began, that then led into that lively Dynamite as well, and then we're getting stuff kickstarting on the way to Wembley. That it was from that match. It was like, okay, this is like AEW canon all of the way. There's no forbidden door aspect to this, and it was, dare I say, it was all the better for it. It wasn't being shoehorned in with some other kind of stuff going on. And like I say, they spent time on building this up and time on it as a story. And it does feel like it's paying off. It's just that we're not going to see the results on that if you look at like the week-to-week ratings, are we? That's almost something you've got to ignore, that it's just going to go, no, this is the rebuilding phase. But at least there is the recognition that these are 2 of the guys that are going to have to be around there at the tippy top end of that.
Definitely, and I suppose that's unless you've got anything else on the live experience or any other questions, a good little segue into kind of what's hot right now and what's going on with AEW. Obviously, I've been away for a couple of weeks, so I haven't talked the Dynamites. Again, found it very strange trying to watch Dynamite at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday. Dare I say, didn't quite enjoy it as much. Isn't that weird? Something psychologically broken in me. It was weird, man. There was one night again, root beer and wings, which is how I live my life in North America. I was trying to get some wings ordered so I could watch it, and then they didn't arrive till like 9:30. The show was about to finish, and I was like, usually I'd just be setting myself up here, getting ready for it. I just couldn't get it right. I couldn't get my brain in the right space for it. But 2 weeks worth of Dynamite while I was away, again, very, very good shows, or at least last week's was very good. Kind of like we're talking a month and a bit really of good shows. And I know you talked, this past Dynamite on weekend shows, so again, we won't belabor the points as far as the ins and outs of the entire show, but it bled into Collision this weekend, didn't it? Like the 2 big things going on right now in AEW, it's Hangman Page and it's MJF, and it's backing those guys. And like I say, MJF might not 100% be by taste and my choice, and there's a real stark difference between the follow-up with the 2 different guys on Collision this week as well. But clearly there's like I don't know, an attention they're putting on those guys, and there's a clear push to be like, okay, let's set this up. These are like almost like the way like they had the pillars, and it was like, they're not really pillars. One of them's Sammy Guevara. That doesn't count. Feels like AEW was setting itself up with like these 4 pillars, and these are the other 2 missing pieces of it. And the only negative I had on Dynamite that I don't know if you've picked up entirely, it is a bit odd to be doing it at the same time. It's interesting from a podcasting point of view because you can compare and contrast, how MJF's heel turn is going with Hangman's not a heel turn because he kind of already was a heel, but more emphasis on the heel side. That the brutality in the Jeff Jarrett match was clearly an underlining of this is the Hangman we're getting now. And then this promo, JP, on Collision this weekend was like the the exclamation point on it, really, just with just how fucking just the anger and the justified anger. He's got the bloodied face and he's talking, he's justified too. He wants to come and kill Swerve Strickland, and he's absolutely right in everything he can say, and you can believe it. Like, I am loving this presentation of Hangman Page right now. Like I say, my only negative is, and it's a minor negative, because Dynamite was so good last week because of it, but I almost wonder, like, should these two things be happening at separate times? I feel like a lot of the airspace and all of the conversation coming out of Dynamite was taken up by the MJF turn, when that's maybe the argument for why you'd want to do these two character establishments on different shows. Because I thought coming out of Dynamite we should have been talking about Hangman Page, and I feel like he pulled those headlines back, both with the match on Collision and that follow-up. It was an online promo we did, wasn't it, JP?
Yeah, it was. And for me, you said it's the compare and contrast between the two. You've got Hangman Page, who again it's the prototypical justified heel, but it's also there's complexity to this, because there's a whole story arc of him in AEW, and it makes complete sense for this as well. Whereas the MJF stuff, I won't lie, with that opening promo and stuff, it's kind of falling flat for me. It just feels MJF by numbers, dare I say it. And it's not something that I'm necessarily like massively into. It's not that he can't deliver a promo and everything else. And it's it's as good, if he's not going to be in the main event, like, that's as good a program as you're going to be getting in the way to Wembley. And I'm glad that we're going to be getting like a high profile, like, I suppose, Will Ospreay match, just by virtue of having MJF in this. Like you say, you've got your four pillars of the company on the men's side just in there together in that ecosystem. But the Hangman Page stuff, I've been loving in this. I've been loving the fact that he's not all of a sudden in love with the Young Bucks. And what is it he said in his promo, that he's back out of the convenience of the Young Bucks in there as well. So there is still that tension there. And I prefer that. Like, this has always been like a bugbear of like, okay, what did WWE not do that AEW could step into that space and do? And it's actually create kind of complex characters, because you've got all these intertwining bits. And with Hangman, appears to be, in its history, the one character they've consistently been able to do this. I think that's why we get angry when he disappears for stretches of time. It's like, no, this bloke really, like, you've said this several times, like, this should be the guy. This should be like, in essence, the story of AEW is the story of Hangman Page, because whenever he is there, he just adds something entirely different to what everybody else does. And yeah, loved that. I mean, the match with Collision, I mean, I just squeezed it in tonight, and sort of also watching some of the Euros as well in there.
Bit odd that Jay White's a face now, isn't it? That was the only strange thing about that. I was like, like it was. I was watching it going like as a social experiment. If you're not paying attention to AEW, they're doing a segment here where Christian, Jeff Jarrett, Jay White, and Hangman Page are all involved in the finish of this match. And Hangman Page is a heel. Jay White seems to be a de facto babyface. Jeff Jarrett, I guess, is a babyface, and Christian is a heel. It's so fucking like, but you wouldn't have guessed, would you? Like a month ago, like if someone just gave you those names on paper, like that was a little bit odd. And that speaks to AEW's investment problem. They do flip flop maybe a bit too much with these characters. But Hangman's maybe a more positive example of it, where I think he's a full heel now, but there's kind of shades of grey there a little bit in that you put him in with Jay White, he's an arsehole and he's true to his character, but the crowd were cheering him a little bit through the match, and we're still kind of behind his weird justified anger. I feel like they're walking that line very well.
But I think that's where it's, sorry, Jay, but I think that's where the two heel turns, Ben, I get what you're saying, are all right for me, because you've got that with Hangman Page, like he's saying, that subtlety, that like he's got that path, to get to Swerve, so he'll do anything to get there, even if he's got to be here. With MJF's just gone back to being a bastard, hasn't he? And the old MJF, so
gone back though.
Can I just say,
has he changed? But has he though? Like, that's what I was annoyed. Sorry, that's what I was annoyed watching. Sorry, I've been off for a few weeks, man. I've got takes to go out. Like, I'm watching him, like going. People are going, I don't see why people are cheering MJF. Of course they're cheering him, because he's just doing the same shit he was doing as a babyface. This was always the problem. His babyface act was, I'm a dickhead, I'm a scumbag, and now he's being a scumbag and you're supposed to boo him. It's Austin Vince stuff, innit? WrestleMania 17. It's like, of course people aren't going to fully boo him. It's so strange. Sorry, man.
No, but I feel like I'm the high MJF guy. I said this on the Weekend show, JP, or last week's Spotlight. It's like, it was. I seen a lot of negative. That promo wasn't as bad as I was expecting going in because I've seen a lot of people down it, and I think that's just speaks to MJF. That's just MJF overall, though, isn't it? I think at the minute, but it wasn't that bad. I know the Nielsen line and Meltzer line was a bit, you know what, but overall, I don't think it was that bad. It was, as James said, even if you're saying there's MJF by numbers, he's just gone back to that. But you're saying, did he ever change? But I just think he's getting himself established again as that bastard. But I don't know.
It's one of those things where people go, well, you wanted him to turn heel, so you can't give him grief. No, I can. I absolutely can. Like, I think it's the best way to go. At this point, the face run needed to end, and it's a mercy killing. I'm glad he's heel again. But that doesn't mean the issues don't exist of the way he was characterized the heel. The fact that, you know, they set up the Kingdom and Adam Cole as these heels.
That's bad, yeah.
And they all turned on him, and now he's a heel too, and now they just have to exist in the same universe. And again, it's a positive whenever getting the payoff. But storytelling-wise, there is still gigantic holes.
We
there
did. We got the low blow, Benno.
You know?
That was the end of it.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Fucking.
It would be great if Will Ospreay just called him out on like how shit large swathes of his title run were.
That might happen.
Stuff like that would be like, I think that would be like a genuinely bit of, because that's always the issue I kind of is you're kind of like you say wanting the comeuppance and whatnot. But for me to feel anything about it, it's going to require kind of putting MJF on the back foot. Because if we're going to go back to just MJF overshadows things again as a heel, I'm not going to be a fan of it because I wasn't mad on it last time around. And like, and again, the face turn is the thing of, I think we all wanted to see it because we thought, okay, this could be done. And then as soon as we saw it, it's like, yeah, actually, no, as a heel, it's better. Funny enough, in Power Slam, that we spoke about Alberto Del Rio, which is the idea of them trying to turn him face in 2013. And that lasted about 2 fucking weeks. Went, no, the man's an arsehole. Turn him back. We're just going to move straight past.
Imagine if they try and turn him again. Imagine if they try and make him a face again. How'd you do it? Like, how'd you do it? We've already done the whole Eddie Guerrero, I'm a bad guy, really kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge character. And they've just, again, it's the right angle, but they have just undercut all that by just making him a heel again. Absolutely.
Oh, I don't know, Ben. He's just, I say, he can't avoid it every week now. MJF, the knives are out for him, lad, aren't they, at the minute? Like, so
yeah, it's pretty much. But again, it's his own doing, and this feels like a run where he's really gonna have to step it up. Otherwise, it's gonna be that run we're gonna look back and bloody. I remember when they admitted defeat and turned him heel, and it didn't hit the same way. It feels like, again, the right result, but a result of bad creative, bad babyface creative, lack of ideas for him. Like I just said, that was a forbidden door. Fucking forgotten to time now. He wrestled Hechicero. Why? Why did that happen? Why didn't they put him in a tag with? If you're gonna do the team with, again, that's the other thing. It feels. Last thing I'll say in the MJF thing, it feels lesser than, because I get there's a positive to elevating Daniel Garcia and making him an important part of the story.
Yeah.
Totally get that. That's not lost on me. But things aren't binary. There's also a negative of MJF's turns become about because he turned on Daniel Garcia. Like, that's the dastardly terrible thing. It's not that, you know what I mean? It just feels mid-card. It feels up a mid-card. That's the negative of doing something for Daniel Garcia in the situation. So yeah, he's got an uphill battle, I think, and especially, you say, with that comparison of doing it at the same time as Hangman Page, he's coming across considerably worse than if they'd just done it on its own.
But at least, though, they're the two, we said this last week as well, they're the two marquee matches for Wembley, though, aren't they? You'd obviously assume that's,
and that's a massive positive.
That's brilliant, Benno. Really good.
6 weeks out from Wembley, we couldn't see what the matches are. Like, right last year. This year, you're looking at it going, okay, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing MJF, you know, it's shit WWE stuff, but playing Ospreay's theme, and then Ospreay doesn't come out, you know, all that stuff. It's like, okay, well, that's very clearly the direction. Swerve and Hangman, that's very clearly the direction, unless there's a spanner in the works with Brian in the Owen. They're all positive, aren't they? Even in the women's division, you can see the direction
100%.
We're leaning in here. Like, yeah, that's a good thing. We are, for all the negatives I could say about that live experience for Forbidden Door, with some positives, the overwhelming feeling was rebuilding period, and maybe you have to go through some of these growing pains to get to the better place, JP.
Yeah, using Wembley as like the proper like reset show, being built properly. I think this is the thing that we said on the weekend show. Like, just my enthusiasm for this as a card is a lot higher, even if there's that weird thing with the ticket sales where they went down this week, so it's still over 40,000. But you're hoping I know. I don't quite understand.
Did they announce
myself.
Drew McIntyre, or like, what happened there?
Fuck it, give them the tickets back. I don't want to go. They've had enough.
On Mars, those goalposts, Matty. I'll wait till
yeah, can't wait for that one.
Yeah, only sold out a show in his hometown. He gets no credit for it, Matty, despite the fact he was on the poster for the 2 months leading up to it. You know what I mean? It's everybody else, yeah. But yeah, there were 2 tickets going for $5,000 each. So poor Drew. Sorry, I did it anyway, didn't I? We'll have it out at some point. Imagine me defending Drew Galloway.
I know.
That's the position we're in. I don't know if we'll be defending him tonight, mine, but yeah, at least it feels like we're getting the shape of Wembley, and it feels like we're getting the direction of where we are. And direction is just kind of what we've wanted, like as a bare minimum of like it's just been ambling through. My horror last year was it like 3 weeks or 4 weeks out? They did an entire show based around like Nick Wayne, like and Pacific Northwest law in wrestling and Dynamite.
That you were panicked when Marco's stunt worked out on Collision. Yeah, oh no, here we go again.
I forgot about that.
Hey, he was good though. He was good.
That was
a good spot for him. He's a good underdog baby. He said it was a good spot.
As a one-off.
Bit of history paid. Oh, absolutely, yeah. Joe Janela next week, Matt. That's what we're doing. I like that. I watched that on the plane on the way back. I really enjoyed it. That was a really good bit of business. I'm loving Jack Perry right now. I think he's a really good shitbag mid-card heel who, again, needs time and placements on the shows to get better at what he does. It's a bit like Swerve. We were rightly critical of some of his main event segments, but I think he's getting there now. Sometimes you got to just have some patience with these guys, and they come off trumps. But yeah, anything else AEW, JP, before we move on to Matty's?
I think that's
I suppose.
Very quick. One really quick thing to ask you: did you enjoy the Britt Baker coming back and Mercedes Moné?
Oh yeah, I should mention that. Yeah. Well, that was again. It's weird, isn't it, that we're doing again? That's another one on the same show, but it made it feel like a hot show, didn't it? I thought Britt was fantastic. Like, I think I thoughts kind of mirrored. I think it was you, JP. Like, yeah, typical. I was going to say AEW women's promo, all women's promo, bitch. Like, let's just throw that in 12 times. So there's a bit of that for me. But some of the lines were genuinely good. What line, bitch, was a good line. Like, she came across like a star. She did. And Mercedes, like, it's unbelievable to me that it's being forced because she was getting booed at Forbidden Door because of the Boston thing. But it's unbelievable that it's like, you know what? Like, those weeks where we were watching those promos she was doing, she wasn't trying to be a heel. She's just unlikable. She's just a really unlikable person. Yeah. Now she seems to be trying to be a heel, and she absolutely should be, because that's the spot she should be in. And I think, yeah, it'll make for maybe car crash TV at times, because her promo ability is where it is, and Britt is going to want to shoot pew-pew. Yeah. But it was entertaining, and it feels like 2 big stars. And that's another one for Wembley, isn't it? Like I say, with the women's division. That's big stars facing each other. That's not Saraya getting a homecoming despite she's being a heel in a 4-way last year. That's actually a story with two big stars. That feels like a AEW's WrestleMania worthy match. So yeah, into it.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean, it's AEW. It's back on now. Basically, we're thinking hopefully from a creative perspective.
We're putting a brave face on it, aren't we?
Yeah, we
are. It changes every week, though. It changes
even if this week. Oh, it does. But even if
this should be a good
that's
run.
The problem with it. It's inconsistent, isn't it?
But this is to Wembley now, as you're saying.
Clear run to Wembley now.
There's 5 or 6 big matches, and then you don't mind the rest of the card getting filled out, GP, because you've got them 5 or 6 big matches.
You put in a stadium stampede match now, I'm fine with that, because it feels to me that there are like 5, like I say, like you mentioned the 2 top women's matches. I expect Mariah May to win. That's the one that makes sense. Her and Toni Storm. As much as I'm not mad on the Toni Storm character, it's the direction you should go in. There's a payoff. You're going to get that, and the fact that Mariah May is British as well. It all ties in very, very nicely together as well. So those top 4 singles matches on the men's and women's side, a tag match between the Acclaimed and the Bucks feels like a kind of a no-brainer as well to throw into the mix. So you can actually start doing that fucking Tony Khan fantasy. Let's throw in big multi-man matches and the rest of it as well. I'm kind of like, I'm all right with that now, because it feels like actually at least you're doing the job on the other stuff to actually the stuff that kind of can really draw you in. So like it's just about maintaining that focus, and that's not AEW's strength, is being focused, because they get distracted. Like I fear that I don't know who that hologram character is as well. My fear is Sammy Guevara under a mask, isn't it? That was my immediate thought.
Yeah,
it's not going to work
for the rest
I'll
of
tell
time.
him that now.
Tony can't try with him. Let's just hope it's Ricochet, because that would be at least something interesting. But didn't look like it to me. But yeah, moving on from AEW. Yeah, I should talk what I spent the rest of my time away doing, which was sitting in arenas watching WWE. Matty, fucking hell, you and Handful have rubbed off on me. Jesus Christ! I walked out of the SmackDown taping with I haven't got it with me now. WWE towel and a free bottle of Prime. I've been well and truly. Bought by the Fed and the Spectre here, Matty. Were you a proud dad watching from afar?
Have you brought that towel home with you? That's the big one, Benno. Did they come home with you?
You're asking if it's for you, haven't you, mate? Yeah.
No.
I did try and get a second one, but they wouldn't give me another one. Sorry, mate.
Oh, no, fair play.
But I have got one.
But shows in 3 days, Benno. Incredible stuff like that. Genuinely.
It was cool. It was like, again, seeing WWE in Canada with, again, that was the thing. I was speaking to Braden a lot about it. He was like, oh, you've got loads of wrestling fans in the UK. It's like, it's just not as normal, though. Do you know what I mean? You're walking down the street and there's people in wrestling t-shirts. Like, it just feels more part of the culture, you know, the Hart family and all that stuff. Even getting to see, you know, as I talked about on the pre-show, Brett's Walk of Fame star and stuff like that. It just feels like it's more part of the culture, and I could feel that going to the Scotiabank. I was like, okay, well, what shows have been here historically? I always like knowing that going in, you know, what things have happened. Like I'm seeing, you know, it's not a great comparison, but I'm at NXT Heatwave and watching Sean Spears doing a sharpshooter, and my mind did pop to like, I wonder how many sharpshooters have happened in this building, you know, and it's been Brett and it's been Owen and actual good sharpshooters in the middle of the arena.
Not the Rock then.
No. But yeah, like I say, yeah, definitely different experience. Get to see some genuinely big shows in Canada there. But yeah, I don't know where to start really. I went to SmackDown on the Friday. I don't really have any strong thoughts on that. That was just more my first feeling for what the Scotiabank was like. Managed to I got in for free with that one thanks to Davey Portman. So I can't really complain. I was sad. It was one of them. It was funny. I was watching Platt had bought like this incredible secondary market ticket, like second row behind the announcers. I love that, Matty. But I was literally the opposite to him, but at the literal far back on like the tight here. But I could still see great. It was still a brilliant view. I was right above the entranceway as well, which made it even cooler. Once the show started, I moved down to the front row of that because there were empty seats down there. Sorry, Matthew. Someone must have heard Drew was in town. A couple of them knocking around. It didn't mean I got a better view, so I was all right with it in that circumstance. But yeah, it was cool to watch a SmackDown. No notes on it really because nothing happened, and that was a big note to be honest. I had of the whole weekend. Like you fucking Feb fans, Matty, usual. Like I'll be sat there going, nothing happened on this show, and then I'll bump into like a couple of people, and they're like, oh no, this happened and that happened, and this other thing. And did you see the way Solo looked at? Yeah, I was just like, for all the slagging off of AEW goes, I did feel like a bemused tourist at times. Like, oh the fuck, why is everyone so happy coming out of that SmackDown? Nothing happened. There were no good matches. Like, where was the work rate, Matthew? Where was the where was the Triple H doesn't do story progression. He does it, but in microaggressions. It's like, you know, once every 3 months you might get one member of the bloodline to look funny and another member of the bloodline, and then, you know, there we go. We got another 6 months of story out of it. Like, do you feel that way? Like, do there be stories of like maybe for the positive, really like that NXT Styles pace of storytelling? Like, he's got patience as a booker, hasn't he? To a fault, I'd say. Paul Levesque, but he gets away with it because people leave these shows so happy with the little movements that they saw.
Well, I'll just if you're going with the for the bloodline stuff that you mentioned, me and Hamlet were talking about this on Saturday night when we met up. It's like you're saying there about having the patience and stuff. That's why from WrestleMania until when Jake and Fatu come in, you do watch it every week, Benno. You see these little looks, these little introduction of, you know, the Tongans, these little backstage stuff. But then you get to that extreme payoff when Jake and Fatu comes in, and then when they destroy Paul Heyman, that you do shift through.
That was great.
Because you know you know something good, especially now under Triple H, you're going to get that big payoff, that big angle at the end of it. And it might be a bit slow for some people. But for us, I'm living it every week, Ben. I love it, and I know it's coming. And don't get me wrong, I've been a bit negative on Triple H, a little bit in the fact of it seems like the Bloodlines is copy and paste for everything. Like the Judgment Day, there's always tension going on. He loves that with tag teams breaking up. It's kind of his go-to for the booking. But with the Judgment Day and such, these have been established groups for for years on Raw every single week. So I can kind of let it slide again for them because these are characters you see in every single week as the main focus. So you've got to be looking at what they're doing on TV. So yeah, it's but you know, Ben, you've got to be waiting for these big moments, mate. That's what it is.
Well, I was going to say, I said nothing happened on SmackDown. I got the big moment of DIY winning the tag.
Well,
so
I said on the weekend show, I mean, even that Triple H's guys, that was going to happen, JP. I'm not big on that, to be honest.
Fun. Did they show it on TV when they were backstage talking about how, like, Toronto was this great town for them and they had all this great history?
They won the NXT
felt so desperate. Felt so, like...
8 years ago.
Charity popped that when they came out, full on. Like, oh... The match got there, though, and they got
They're
away.
not over, though. I
think I was just bitter because... I was just bitter because I didn't get Jacob in real life, unfortunately. He wasn't on SmackDown. There were rumours abounding that he hadn't made it because earlier that day I'd been on Young Street in Toronto and I'd seen Tongaloa sat outside somewhere having a coffee. Don't worry, lads, he didn't ask me for a photo, so I'm glad he didn't bother me. But he was sat there on his own, and I was thinking, is he the only one in the bloodline who's made it into the country with them, showing the video footage and stuff? But they did get Jacob in. I imagine he had the same conversation I did with customs when me and Steph came back from New York, and like the customs guy was like, "Oh, who are you staying with?" I was like, "Oh, I'm staying with friends." "Oh, how'd you know them?" "Wrestling." "But how'd you know them?" I was like, the internet. It's just like this awkward conversation. Like, oh yeah, how do I know all these people? Bit like go back to 2004, 5 and my first trips to ROH. So I assume he gave them a similar answer and managed to get himself into the country. And then Saturday was Money in the Bank. And yeah, don't know where should we start with this one, Matty? I was say SmackDown had a couple of empty seats. Money in the Bank felt like that was the hot ticket. I spent £75 on a ticket, Matty. How'd you feel about that? To get myself into Money in the Bank. Yeah, I did all right. I was keeping an eye on StubHub and Ticketmaster, and I was more annoyed with my NXT Heatwave ticket. There was one going for a tenner earlier in the day, and I was convinced it was going to go even cheaper. It didn't. More on that later. 22 quid I spent to go see fucking NXT.
It's still cheap though. This is fucking good.
Not for NXT.
I'm feeling your anger, mate, on that.
Really? Oh, lads.
On principle.
It cost me about 30 for AEW, so I don't know where that stands for you, Matty.
It's fine as well. Cheap.
We'll say Money in the Bank, right? Like I've not known arenas doing this. This is an arena show, Scotiabank, like known arena. Like, you know the way at the top sometimes where you'll have, people in wheelchairs either sat, or you kind of see people with like, I don't know, I don't know if it's an American arena thing where there's like stools, like we're talking the gods behind all the seats where you can actually stand. They were on the last day, they put those tickets on sale, like standing room tickets. You could buy standing tickets to watch Money in the
Bank.
Garden's
got that, Benno.
Yeah, like
little benches with stools. Yeah.
Once the show started, you could see people like crowded at the top. Well, I was like, you know what? That's kind of what I do anyway. Me and JP go to Rev Pro. What do? We stand at the back with a pint.
Yeah.
Like I might have a front row seat. I'm still going to stand at the back. So I was kind of into it. Like that's what I did. That's what I spent. That's what my 75 quid ticket was. But I bought one. And then, I don't know if I should say this on a public podcast, but one of Davey and Braden's mates has got this great thing where he'll look on Ticketmaster and look at what seats are available on the floor and haven't sold yet. And we'll just sit there. Like, when there's like the Drew McIntyre seats where they're going for like $5,000 each. If they haven't sold, then no one's going to complain earlier when you move down. And we did that. Yeah, we literally, during the show, like during the first match, because I found it hard to actually... It was genius, but it just made me nervous because I'm sat there thinking someone's going to come.
You've got to show the security. Yeah.
We were literally center, like the first bit that goes up, like 5 rows back. Couldn't have had a better view of the ring. And he was like making us copies of what the tickets would look like on our phones. So that if anyone did come and ask. It was a whole operation, got to be said. Eventually, somebody did buy those tickets, so we looked on the map again and was like, okay, there's spares to the left, and we moved a little bit to the left. Still had fantastic tickets, and it was like, yeah, just paid to get in and then moved down later on. That might be a good tip for Wembley for anybody out there. But I think, I had a cracking view for AEW as well. There was no Papa Briscoe for Money in the Bank, but I was, felt very lucky to be, felt, almost bad for you, Matty, that it was me sat there and not you spending me 75 quid to get a very, very premium seat for a WWE show. And it was a very different atmosphere to AEW, I'll say that to you, Matt.
Yeah, no, well, that's it. I mean, if we, as JP said before, about we can basically talk about every match if you want to, because there's only 5 of them on this card.
Yeah.
To be fair, but what do you think the ladder matches, Ben? I know this is what once again I'm pretty still the high guy on ladder matches, but it is Money in the Bank, and do you want to start on both of them? Like,
Let's just go in order. Let's just do the show in full order. So what's first? Go on.
The men's ladder match was first.
Yeah.
I mean, I've obviously only watched this on Monday, so I stayed semi-spoiler free because I was in London, so I've done it 2 days later. I love this, the ladder match, the men's one. I thought it was fucking brilliant. The fans are right into it. I see a lot of over characters there. I know it's not everyone's taste, but me and Hamlet, once again, we're gushing over it. Just the simple fact of the yeah versus yeet. Pro wrestling, that, lads. You don't have to kill yourselves with fucking moves and destroyers. It's just 2 catchphrases going at it.
You're going to make me delete that Discord post when I was defending you, Matty.
It's so fucking easy, though, but so over. Genius stuff. But there was some good stuff, you know, Carmelo and Andrade, JP, your mates in there to take the bumps.
Genius seems
be a bit wild in this, and he got his 10 minutes of fame every 3 months, Andrade in this. But the inverted Spanish fly, I thought was a good spot by them 2 lads. But once again, there was a few winners you could have done. Everyone was saying the interference was going to be there. There was none, was there? It was basically just Drew getting his win. And I thought I enjoyed this one a lot better. What was it like in the arena?
Weird, like it goes to 2 live shows 2 weeks in a row, and I have to sit through 3 ladder matches. But then didn't talk about Forbidden Door ladder match. How fucking good was that? Like, how fucking
scary.
I was like, am I just enjoying this because I'm live here? And again, you know, sat in front of the Briscoe family, and they're all going wow for Mark. Like, is that what? No, it was genuinely really fucking good. We're going to talk about the women's one later, which I think had a bit more similar to the AW one in that it just had that element of danger. Wow. It just felt like painful, everything they were doing. But it had creativity too. And I thought, like, what Takeshita brought to the AW ladder match is what Gable brought to this one. Like, I read the stat, he's not been in a ladder match before. Like, I couldn't believe it when I found that out, because he was the base for everything in this match. He was setting things up. He was involved in the more complicated spots. His timing was unbelievable in it. Like, I love Chad Gable. He's one of my him and Sami Zayn are like my 2 favorites right now from like the WWE side, and getting to see him up close do what he does, like. I know the Kurt Angle comparison is you can't mention his name without mentioning it. He's getting "you suck" chants on his entrance. That was another note from these live shows here. But he was the glue for this match. He was unbelievable.
Spot.
It was a great 1-man performance.
With LA Knight, Benno, with the neck breaker on the ladder, but it was on its side.
Yeah. Oh,
wild!
But again, the way he bumped it and bounced off, and again. The balance, suddenly we realise you need to pull that spot off without the ladder going haywire or it not quite looking as good. Absolutely, yeah. Brilliant. And the biggest thing for me was that was my main note from a match point of view, but it was just Andrade aside over characters, you know. Drew is overdoing his, you know, Kevin Nash tweener shtick. Jey Uso is, like, it's unbelievable. I've got...
Insane, Benno. I'm over here.
I'll send a video to you, mate. I've got his entrance from above the entranceway on the SmackDown taping when he came out, like, unreal. Like, people going, wow. Like, you would cry.
I'd cry watching it, but I'm on telly. I've got to hold it back. I can imagine being there.
But it's a similar note to what I've got for the main event here. Like, it's over baby faces. Imagine that in your wrestling promotion. You know, go with it. And yeah, he was massively over. LA Knight massively over as well. Like I say, Andrade less so. He kind of felt like a bit of a spare wheel in this thing in general. Even the way like he entered it and the way they did the SmackDown segment as well with him. But yeah, Carmelo Hayes looked all right as well. Bit of creativity. Probably the weaker of the 3 ladder matches I saw over the weekend, but achieved the same, didn't it? Put Drew over and. At least at this point of the night, went over strong.
Can I just say as well, I think LA Knight deserves a bit more credit as well for staying over in this, as you say, this pool of babyface that's going on. And I think he's getting better every time I see him wrestle. Seriously, he took a few things in this, that overhead belly to belly by Gable onto the ladder. He was bumping in this as well. So I've got to give him a bit of praise, and hopefully going into his US title match against Logan Paul at SummerSlam, yeah.
It's only taken him to the age of 41, mate.
Well, this is it, JP.
20 years of wrestling.
He mastered the proper stuff early, didn't he? The talk and the catchphrases, and now he's learning how to wrestle.
You can see it live though, like when he does his entrance. He does that like Rock or Austin stare off into the distance thing as he walks in. He was looking at my section, and you kind of feel like, oh, this is a star. Like he just gets it. He gets those little things. He gets how to work that crowd. Like it's a skill in itself. Again, not everything's bell to bell, Matty. That's where sometimes me and you will agree. Great wrestler for this company.
Yeah. So I think then go on, sorry, JP.
I was going to say it's a bigger point with them as well, which is the thing that WWE gets right. It's almost everything, but a lot of the times bar the actual stuff in the ring. But do you know what? When it comes down to creating hot crowds, that's not the thing that matters. And that might be one of like the bigger takeaways from like perhaps all of the shows that you've seen. Better, it's the idea of getting those entrances right, those kind of what are the big moments you take away from it, and you don't worry about the other stuff. That's what WWE fans are sort of able to have, that kind of cognitive dissonance. I'm jealous about that they're able to
but
do that.
Arguably, I know you're not talking down, but people will talk down. See, they're on their own Discord on that, and I know you get your back up, Matty. But what are the WWE fans into? They're into who wins. Like, they care who wins. Like, they're not into, was the match good? Necessarily. Well, the match is good because of the sum of its parts, because it had the guys I like in it, because the guy I like in it did the spots I like he does, and he did the chant that I like he does, and the guy I like won. Like, match good. Like, it's just not...
Sorry, Ben.
The attitude we have.
And you know what I'm saying, but then there's that part when it gets even better, when, like, say, a Gable and a Zayn at Clash of the Castle, where it's a story match, and you've got the two good wrestlers as well. That's why I love that so much, because it can get even better.
It was the combination of both, wasn't it?
Exactly. So it's but I see people looking down. It does my head in that. It really fucking pisses me off.
Just in terms of this, I mean, if I'm giving it a star rating, I'm probably going to go about 3.5. Like I say, I would agree with you, Benno, that it was like the weakest of the ladder matches, which I wasn't expecting. Like for this to be the case.
Good opener.
It was a good opener, and again, it's just that idea of how invested all of the fan base is. You just watch these shows, and I end up watching this in the house with, like, I've got Harry and George here, I've got Vicky here, and they're like paying attention to it because all they're hearing is absolute like raucous cheering the entire time, and people are invested. And like you say, it's all they care about is if they win. It's almost like, I don't know, England fans should be like that in some ways when it comes to the Euro. Just care if you win or not, but instead they get hung up on the kind of the match quality, don't they, at times. But
can I ask though, Benno, was Steph popping when Drew McIntyre won?
Oh my God, me and Breen were having a conversation about that. It was like, why do both of our girlfriends think Drew McIntyre is the hottest man on planet Earth? Is your Steph feel the same way?
No,
like,
he's like the ultimate, she said. He's the best on
I
Earth.
didn't know this.
No, every time she comes out, she runs.
Maybe that's why I like him.
When she hears his music, she runs into the room. If she's in the bedroom,
fair play.
my head in.
He looks good. Fair play.
Oh no, he's fucking
He's got it together.
And I know I don't want to bleed too much into talking about the other match as well, but I did feel like him winning it. I was like, money in the bank for a company, like you say, that spends so long with their storytelling and having things in there. It's like, here is this plot device that you can insert an entirely new character into the mix, like, say, a Chad Gable, like, say, even a Jey Uso, where you've got that, like, kind of that plot device in and amongst it. And I would say it feels like putting it onto Drew, given the storyline and the other stuff that happened later on that night. You look at it and go, it's kind of a waste. Like, there's always more you can do with Money in the Bank. That's my opinion.
They do have the women's as probably is the counter argument, isn't there? But I've got more to say on the use of it in the punk.
And I don't mind it, JP, doing a shorter one when Priest had it for like 9 months last year. Do you get me? He was carrying it around for ages, so don't mind. I get what you're saying about that's what it should be, really, about building someone new. But if it's used in the storyline, it makes sense with Punk, which we're going to go into in a bit.
I think he fell into options, don't you?
He fell into that 19% of people who failed on the men's cash in.
They love those stats.
Oh, they love them. But you know what?
Just telling you, lads.
I have to say about this, it's like, that's when you look at their production and you go, yeah, there's relentless packages and everything else, which means I never have to watch the TV, frankly, because it's just like, it's like what Wei Ting said before about, like, people do these poses so it can be just with a slow-mo and put a filter over the top of it and use it in a promo package, but it works. Absolutely, like, works for that. And yeah, I mean, it's
Up next, we had Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker, Matt.
Yeah, I was shocked
I had a
at
long
this.
break, obviously, in the middle.
Yeah.
Of course. Got myself a hot dog, a pretzel, I think. Got a nice Canadian. Hey, the beers in the Canadian arenas are a lot cheaper than the American. Still not dirt cheap, but you're probably more talking like £6-7. So I can.
What's the
I
snap
can
then?
live with that.
Pretzels, did you say, was it? At there as
I
well?
had a hot dog one day
Yeah.
and I had a pretzel one of the other days as well. But it didn't break the bank. Again,
Yeah.
the exchange rate's very, very kind to us at this point. So wasn't too bad. But yeah, into Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker. Again, you say about the match orders being surprising, Matty, but the decisions being surprising for me.
This was.
Yeah,
I was shocked at this.
Cool seeing Sami Zayn in Canada. He did a dark match on SmackDown against Gable. Actually, they got me to give them the credit there, Matty. They got me to stick around for a dark match, thinking Chad Gable versus Sami Zayn was going to be something special in Canada. You know what it was? A fucking house show match where they were both obviously not wanting to take any bumps because they had a pay-per-view the next day.
Yeah.
So I got to see a little bit more of an on Sami Zayn here against Braun Breaker, and yeah, I just assumed it was going to be Braun doing the Brock squash. I guess they kind of did a version of that on Raw instead, in angle form. But yeah, Sami Zayn kind of went over in a good little match, but pretty basic way, really. I thought there'd be more capital letter story here.
Yeah, 100%. But I would say that's the word I was with. This was shocked, and especially the clean nature. But looking into it once again, this obviously will pay off Ben in about 4 months' time when he does win the Intercontinental title. But no, it will, because
in 6 years, like, right? Gargano and Ciampa are gonna. Okay, nice one, mate.
But I know Sami Zayn would never cheat to win, of course. But it was so clean, wasn't it? It was so definitive for me, anyway, of how he won. I was like, bloody hell, but then I thought to myself, well, that'll play into when he's the new guy on the block. He'll learn against a wily veteran, and then he'll, win the title eventually. But it wasn't picked up then, this match. It started off a bit slow for me, but then it picked up the clothesline over the announce table, showing your bronze athleticism.
Yeah.
That was good. Then the jumping knee to block the first haluva kick as well. I love the finish in that sense as well. They're blocking each other's moves. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But it doesn't really... I think we're past that point now, aren't we, in WWE, where like the knives are now from like, they've killed Braun Breaker before he started. It's like, it's fine. You know what I mean? It's shocked. I was shocked, but it's fine, and it'll pay off in a few months' time for me.
If they hadn't done the Raw angle, I might have been more on that side. But the Raw angle was like, okay, no, you should still take notice of Breaker. I still think he's going to beat Sami Zayn. But again, I probably would have done it there. I thought like it's Sami Zayn in Canada, so we should win. Well, no, I mean he's been around long enough now, hasn't he? He can take a loss in a situation like that. I think that would have been the move for me.
I would have been like I would have done that as well, because the idea of him being so over, then surely the heel heat for Braun would have been stronger if you did it in Canada as well, and that would have been a good kickstart. And with Sami Zayn, you're just thinking, like they mentioned the fact he's held that title 4 times. I was like, oh Christ, okay, I might have memory of one of those times that he held it, but for the most part, it's like, does he need it? No, not really. It could be used, like, putting it on Braun does feel like what I would end up doing.
Can I just say that one of them reigns, JP, is a Benno line. Sami Zayn wrestled Daniel Bryan for the Intercontinental title at a WrestleMania once. Can anyone remember?
He fucking didn't.
No, he did.
Nah.
It was the MC Arena one, but he still done it.
Jesus. WWE started when Triple H took over.
I was thinking this. I was genuinely thinking this the other day, Benno, that it just doesn't exist, does it?
None of this history matters now. No. Yeah, good match. I go 3.5 on it. I don't have much more on it, really. Cool to see Sami Zayn in Canada. That was a very nice live experience.
3.25.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, good stuff. No, but the women's, it was it was Priest, wasn't it? Next Benno against.
Well, before that, Matty, we got the second best wrestling and hip hop crossover of the 2 weeks, as full up hot on the heels of Jim Jones.
Jim Jones, mate, that was amazing.
I popped so big for that. When I realised who it was, I was like, fucking Dipset, let's go. And then he tripped over trying to get into his seat, because of course he did. We love you, Jimmy. It was fun explaining to Steph. I was like, "Oh yeah, you have to start when you try." I don't know if you did the same thing on Spotlight, Matty, trying to explain to people who Jim Jones is. It always starts with, "Well, do you know Cameron?" And then Steph went, "No," and I was like, "Oh, all right, okay, what else?"
Do you know Joel Santana? And then, do you know Jim Jones?
Oh boy,
third one down. Yeah. Third rapper down.
You get there eventually. I enjoyed that, but that's very AEW, isn't it? To give it a Jim Jones a spot like that, where it is Metro Boomin a little bit more current. And especially with the link to Atlanta, I loved him and Cody's little thing in the car. Pop for that as well. Bad Blood is back, Matty.
Yeah, it's back.
Bring it back. Only 1D though, not the same. Doesn't count.
No, it's not, is it? And I think they said on commentary as well when they were talking to the camera that it's been 27 years. He said since the last one and then the first one, so I think he might have fucked that up, Corey Graves, because there's definitely been a few after that. And as I seen someone say on Twitter, he retired it after that 47-minute Triple H Shawn Michaels Hell in a Cell, which I love seeing the hatred for that on Twitter because it was so bad. It was so fucking boring.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that was Bad Blood. Yeah, Jesus. And yeah, you said there were breaks between matches. This was the longest break because we had the Trish Stratus appearance, looking great. All the cowboy hats, fantastic. Over in Canada, nice little late addition to the show, and brought out John Cena, who unbelievably, Matty, I've now been to 2 Money in the Banks in a row, and 2 years in a row that John Cena come out, and I don't know about you, this retirement thing, it just feels like he had nothing else he could say. Like it's like last year, and he was like, WrestleMania in the UK. It's like, well, I'm probably not going to wrestle much longer, so I'll just kind of broadly say I'm retiring next year, but not actually directly say when. Just say at some point, Royal Rumble's my last one. It was kind of inferred WrestleMania's going to be the last one. Didn't sound like he said directly he's retiring there either. He's retiring at some point was basically the bit on it.
What he said is basically, because that would have been good if he would have said I'm doing the Rumble to WrestleMania, have your big last match. He's doing 40 dates from January to December. It's just his last WrestleMania. Then what if he gets the bug when he's retired in December and goes, well, I'll retire at the WrestleMania after that? That could happen, couldn't it? It's like,
probably will, yeah.
And to be fair, I'm not a big Cena guy. I'm torn on this, but it's, in one side, obviously respect him, and he deserves a good send off, and he deserves all what's gonna happen with him with the big matches, etc. But as you say, no. But the last 2 years, Benno, it's like Solo killed him. Austin Theory fucking beat him. He's been beaten to the ground that much that, to be fair, they're doing it properly, and people mightn't like this. And I've seen Karrion Kross of all people. Now wait there, let me finish before you jump in. Start thinking he needs wins, Cena. If he's going to do this, he can't just expect to beat someone after coming off 2 big losses like that. He's got to go and beat a few jobbers like Karrion Kross on TV to get his momentum and his thing back. And I'm sure he'll address that on the promos because he did in the Solo feud that he hasn't got much left. So fair play on that sense if he's doing it properly, because he can't just be thrust and expected to win the world title after fucking losing the last fucking big fight he had. So let's hope they will do it properly as well. I think once again with Triple H there.
But the thing about Cena though, as well as all those losses, he hasn't looked good for a very long time. He never really did look good. But at least in his prime, he was wrestling every week and he had a bit of a momentum and he had a way of doing his matches that could, at its highest level, give you something like the Umaga match. Now, when he's coming back, and he was never the greatest physical athlete in the first place, he just looks ropey. And people are going, him and Punk one more time. I don't know if I want to see. It's like Nigel Bryan. Leave the memories alone. Not sure I want to see them do that again.
He looks small as well, Benno. Cena, he looks very tiny. Punk was more jacked on that picture, wasn't he?
and their matches were executionally always horrendous. It was the story that worked. So maybe 2 old pros can still pull it out. But I can just picture Punk with his shoulder coming out of its socket. Cena fluffing a few punches, and it just probably not being a very pretty thing.
No,
there you go.
But he does deserve it. As much as I'm not a fan, JP, he does deserve that big send off, doesn't he?
I always look at this as he has to retire because this gets into an insurance issue with the film industry. There comes a point where that's his bread and butter, and he earns a small fortune. He obviously does very, very well out of it as well, and he has probably even at this moment in time as much of a name within the world of film and TV. He's got a second series of Peacemaker coming out. This is a guy who has made this work, who could have been straight to DVD all of the way, but he's really made this work. And that's where you have to make that split. But like you say, pure retirement, it's well, that's exactly what The Rock has done. And The Rock, I don't know if we're ever getting that fucking retirement as well. Maybe the retirement into some tech bro. Like he just needs to get himself his bloody his roll neck jumper up on there.
Got to say, by the way, yeah, you said about Karrion Kross, Matty. Yeah, Steph saying no hating on him. The only man more handsome than Drew McIntyre, I'm told, in WWE.
Karrion Kross.
Karrion Kross.
I fucking love that.
I'm going mad. Apparently,
she needs to start watching Global Force then, because the fucker's all over that as well, isn't he?
Carry on, Cross. Unbelievable.
But I love that in the chat as well. Pop there, Andy Ryan saying Cena's working more than Roman next year.
Oh, got to be said as well. On a serious note, all credit to John Pollock for trying to ask John Cena a serious question. Yeah. I've seen him get grief, Pollock, for like the way he asked the question, but like again, what we talk about on that media thing is like there's tact to asking questions, isn't there? I agree with I think it was either him or Brandon who said it on our podcast. Like you can't. It's probably not fair to ask like random member of the female roster in NXT what you think about Vince McMahon. Like it's probably not the place, but when you've got Triple H in front of you, you should be asking those questions. And I think when you got John Cena in front of you, you should be asking those questions. But there's questions you can ask him that he's just going to no comment, isn't there? And there's ways of asking the question. And I think that's what Pollock was going for, was to get him to just open up and talk a little bit and maybe get something out of that rather than just a shutdown. Unfortunately, got a shutdown, but he did get thanked for his courage. So that was nice to see from John to John. But there you go. Non-answer from Vince McMahon's best friend, John Cena. But yeah, past that, after that we went into next one's the Damian Priest and Seth Rollins match. Tripped me up there. I saw Drew McIntyre on the list and I was like, well, we get there. Strangely, Matty, if you were going to do that angle, not the last match on the show. I think it always felt like a red herring because I'd heard in the day Cena was there. So that wasn't a huge surprise when he came out, although he still got the gigantic surprise pop. Punk, Steph had been convinced he was going to be there, and I wasn't quite so certain. But yeah, if he was going to be there, we were sitting there thinking, well, it'd be the main event, so surely they're not doing it. And they still did. Weird.
Well, we'll talk about the main events in a bit, obviously. But
sorry, SIkoa's got to go on.
Yeah, I like the way they done this though, Benno, because he just put that doubt in that like 2 matches later, you just assumed to do a cash in and we'd all be whatever you were thinking. And I like this. And before we get to the obvious botch in this match, I've got to give Priest a bit. I don't know if you're still a high man, JP, on Damian Priest. I think these matches. And I love the match with Drew was similar. They're just bombs and moves from the off.
Yeah.
I love the way he structured the matches and he delivers in them for me. He's got good strikes. He's got good moves with a Z on the end. Yeah, I'll put that Z on there. And Seth, similar as well, without the strikes, of course, but he has some good moves. And I think they just gelled all right until the obvious botch, which, JP.
That's the thing. I was kind of enjoying this because I just thought I'm enjoying the fact he's just spamming big moves against each other. That was like I was perfectly fine with that, and I thought that Damian, like you say, I think I'm always going to end up having that soft spot for Damian Priest. I don't know quite where this comes from.
I know, JP, I love it though.
But I'm like kind of fine with it. But you can't move beyond the botch because it just took like momentum out of the place. I don't know how it came across live like for that as well, because it just was, and the referee was put in this awful position. And I know in the post-match sort of press conference, like it was just said it was just shit happens is effectively how it's been kind of pitched. This it was his fault, but it's not like he was concussed. The referee, they kind of had to have the triple threat because then that allowed the Punk to interfere and not have a DQ and whatever. So the knock-on effect, if they just sort of called it as a shoot and did it as a title
you used to have to shoot count, JP. That was the rule a couple of years back, wasn't it? You had to just shoot count it. And
I always hated that though. It's you can make like they have here. You can make it the ref's fault. You can do whatever you want in wrestling. You know what I mean? You can tell any story you want. Like you don't have to call it as a shoot. Mistake. What the line they've gone with mistakes. I think Seth Rollins said it on Raw. Mistakes happen in sports all the time. Yeah, you can get away with that. I would say when you were talking about the botch of Karrion Kross, not Karrion Kross, sorry, Damian Priest. I was gonna say which one, but okay, I suppose we mean the finish. I don't rate him at all. I think he moves around like he's in fucking sand boots half the time. He's got. I like that he's something different. I like that like he's like the modern equivalent, isn't he? Like not every wrestler on your roster should work the same way and look the same way.
Yeah.
And enough about AEW. Like you need, and AEW has it too. You need your tall guys, don't you? You need your Kane equivalent or whatever to just offer something different. He's kind of filling that modern role. He's a tall guy who does choke slams, but he can be rough in segments in these matches.
I don't know, I don't know. I think he doesn't play, like you're saying, he moves slower, but I don't think is in ring. He's not that type of guy I know he does that. What is it that he did botch himself at Clash of the Castle as one of his high spots, but I think his other moves, as you say, are just powerful and strike. So I think it doesn't offend me at all, really. And I think he stepped up to the plate as world champion because people obviously, since he got the title, were a bit down, oh, he's the world champion, but I think he's making it work slowly but surely, and fair play to him. And he's featured every week on TV as well, and he has been for 2 years with the Judgment Day, so he's got that behind him. So let's see if he gets past Gunther, because I've heard rumours that I've seen a few people saying today that he's actually going to beat Gunther Benno. Can you imagine the meltdown if that happens?
Nah, it's not happening. Not happening. Not for that video package they gave Gunny on Raw. But yeah, should talk the post match. What do we think? I obviously live pop for Punk turning up. Very much enjoyed that. Got a couple of of course, nice little bonus. I haven't seen now Punk. I've seen him at AEW. I've seen him sort of obviously with WWE before as well. But this is a nice little run of seeing our mate first live. So that was good. Felt a little bit reductive to me. Like I don't mind the story of Punk is never gonna let Drew have anything nice. Like it's good. It feels real. They still feel like they hate each other. I think that's good. It's bled through into the Seth Rollins stuff with Punk as well. It feels like they genuinely don't like each other and they genuinely just don't want good things for each other. And they made it personal with the gigantic Drew beatdown and the taking the wrist thingy or whatever it was with Larry's name on it and AJ's name on it and stuff like that. So I get the logic behind it. But it just felt a bit repetitive to me. It was just same again, really. I thought there might have been a more creative way to get us closer to the eventual match than to just Drew gets screwed by Punk again. Drew gets made to look like an idiot by Punk again. And I'm fine with Drew getting made to look an idiot, I think, as long as the payoff is that, he does eventually look strong in this feud. And
he's got to win.
Presume that's the direction. Yeah, he probably has to. They've laid it on so thick that he's just constantly getting embarrassed at every turn by Punk. This just felt like one too many for me for the balance of that being a good story. Very enjoyable live. Cool to see Punk, like I say, from a live experience. I did enjoy it in isolation. Whereas a story, I don't know, one too many for me.
I'm not mad on the direction of where this is going. Say, just one too many. I just thought to myself, after this, I was like, God, McIntyre's been made to look like shit. And I thought, Punk is the heel in all of this. I'm not getting his justification. Oh, he tore off a fucking bracelet. Boo fucking who? Like, you're ruining this lad's life on fucking in front of his fucking family and whatnot. It's happened several times in the mix. I mean, which does make me sort of anticipate the match. But I was like, Drew's got to kind of kill him here at this point. If he's coming back just from injury, and I kind of want it to be a 10-minute squash. Like, effectively, that's really the direction of where I would like for this as well. This comes back to the earlier point I said about like how you use this as a storyline device, and there's ways of using the Money in the Bank like briefcase in a better way. And I think the problem is why would you interject yourself into a triple threat? Why not wait till the very end of the match when they're completely knackered? And it's the things that I end up thinking about that it doesn't seem to me that the WWE universe gives two shits. So you're like, no, okay, that's how they view it as well. But yeah, I wasn't mad in this. It was like you say, I just thought this is give or take the same as Clash at the Castle. And I thought they were they were testing the patience there for that. So for this one, I was more bemused than anything else. I was just like, I don't know. I wouldn't have done it. Wouldn't have done it here. But hey, that's just me.
Well, I've got to counter that, guys. With I must be one of these WWE guys you were on about before, Benno. About
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, every week. I love it. I think it's because no, do you know why it is? It's because you look at what Drew McIntyre's done in this whole feud. He took away what Punk wanted, the WrestleMania match, didn't he? He injured him. He put him out as well, injured the arm even more, broke the arm even more after he injured him. So he took all that away. And people forget that beating, like you just said, give him a beating in his own hometown, bloodied them up and robbed his, as Punk said in the interview with Seth, it might be 50 cents on the retail, but it means the most to him. So Punk's getting Drew back in the way he knows is going to with him the most. That once he's obsessed with being the world champion because he didn't have his moments when it was in the pandemic. So I think this has been told so fucking well. And I can see slightly you may be saying one too many, but no, I think it's been perfect. And hopefully we can just get this match now at SummerSlam and that Punk gets cleared because it'll be a perfect setting. It'll be a great brawl. But I do slightly think Drew's got to win this first one, though. He's got to win this first one for the fact of, all right, it's been more personal for Punk in a real life sense. But Drew has been cost the title every month, hasn't he? So I just slightly go with you.
Putting him over to keep that like nice guy backstage vibe going of like, see, and I'm in. I'll put people.
His
over
first
too.
singles
like,
as well, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. He's coming back from injury, and they use that as justification. I could also see him blown through Drew, and Drew looking like an idiot. So it could go either way. But yeah. So the only thing I was going to say is I almost wanted as well. That beatdown of Punk was so well done on SmackDown. I feel like they should have sold it more. I felt like too soon to do this, to be honest. I felt like what was the difference between that and any other beatdown that happens on Raw or SmackDown? It was the level of brutality. It was sold as a lot more serious, and he's already back doing interference on Drew matches. Yeah, that was maybe an issue for it as well. But again, he also had a weird wrestle with the referee on the outside. That was fucking strange, wasn't it?
Yeah, seen that. That was
what's he doing? Like he's fucking Punk sometimes. Like honestly, he's one of them feminists, isn't he? Like it's like just like women, Phil. I think that you need to admit, mate.
Yeah.
Not even in a completely sinister way. Just he's a fucking flirt, isn't he? Like that's how I viewed that. I didn't see it as anything more sinister than that, but it was like we were watching and you could see them go down to the floor, and it was like, what's going on? Like couldn't tell because the crowd were in the way, and it was only afterwards I saw the video. It's just a bit fucking weird, wasn't it? Just a bit fucking weird. But yeah, on the briefcase points, which kind of takes us into our next match. Again, I'm all right with wasting a briefcase when you've got two. I wouldn't have two, but once you've got two, I think having two different people waiting in the wings to do the big run-in type of thing is like, it's a bit much. And to do it every year constantly, I would argue you need exceptions, so I don't necessarily hate that, even if there's other elements of the story I don't love. But speaking of which, as a positive point on it, Massey got the women's Money in the Bank ladder match.
Mate,
it wasn't good, but it was good. That's going to be my NXT Heatwave review.
This was insane. Like this, honest to God, some of the stuff in this, and I'm jumping right in that Michinoku driver off the top by Io Sky to Zoe Stark. One of the most insane spots I've ever seen, and I've been watching 30 years. Benno, what the hell were they playing at? Honest to God.
Death. They were playing with death.
Oh, unbelievable. But even like some of just the bumps they were taking, the ladies in this, like the Samoan drop. But I think it was Zoe to Lyra early on, and she just got like this, like it was lying there, and she just got the edge of the ladder. It wasn't even a full back bump on the ladder. There was so much like dicing with danger, as you're saying, in this match. That was like, and the tarantula German, was it Io? Lyra was hanging upside down, JP, and like Zoe Stark done a knee afterwards, but before that, she gave the German suplex to Io Sky off the ladder. There's some absolutely insane spots in this, mate.
Mate, I saw a clip from Botchamania where they were comparing it to like CZW, and that's how this very much felt. To the point where, like, I don't know if you've mentioned it already, because for some reason my computer doesn't like the background. It's having to take off at this particular match as well, because I did have the backdrop of the driver that Io Sky did.
Oh, JP, you said that first. That insane, JP. That honest to God, mate.
I mean, that was terrifying. And that's how this was. Is this? I mean, for me, it was my match of the night. Like, because this had, like, you wanted fucking danger in a ladder match. This had it, because this was absolutely fucking brutal. But what did it achieve? Who were the people who were kind of like over for the match? It was Tiffany Stratton and it was Chelsea Green, which I wouldn't have expected Chelsea Green in any stage. I think the closest I ever think of her being like over at any real point is when she was Hot Mess in TNA, for God's sakes. Like here, though, just the sheer, like it was surprisingly creative. And I think Benno brought up the point, this was actually quite similar to the ladder match of Forbidden Door. It really was. For just sort of sheer dangerous shit. This wasn't for me in the men's match, like at all. And I thought it was just like absolutely fucking wild. I mean, even Chelsea Green taking a push off the top and going through 2 tables as well, which again exploded nicely.
Yeah, there was no inch there for the screw up, because the way she took it, it weren't your typical hanging on and then falling. She basically jumped off and twisted and fell backwards through it, and it was against the guardrail as well. So she would have went like a foot or 2 further and overshot it. Perfect, JP. It was so well done. Fucking brilliant stuff it was.
But if you look at the result and what this match was there to achieve, it achieved it. And the rise of Tiffany Stratton, who was, let's face it, slotted into this top line women's mix on the main roster pretty seamlessly, appears to be massively over as well. It's hard to like disagree with what they're doing. And this sort of felt like almost in a way what a Money in the Bank ladder match should be, which is just sort of like batshit spots with that kind of ultimately that surprise winner. Will she cash in and win the title? Undoubtedly, yes. Like that feels like the direction. And it feels like I mean, I don't know, Benno, to us on TV, it just appeared to be that her and Chelsea Green were just enormously over.
That was my biggest takeaway. Like, I was surprised at how over Tiffany Stratton was and the Tiffy time stuff and that. I saw signs for it the first day. Didn't even know what it meant. Somebody had signed it said Tiffany in the bank. I was like, I don't know what that is. Figured it out by the end of this. But I would say, Chelsea Green was a big takeaway for me. In that, of course, it's Canada, so, that helps too. But she's someone who's very clearly put a character together that has gotten over, that people maybe not relate to, but you know what I mean, are invested in and like, and it's a win, I suppose, for packaging, really, and she's packaged herself really well and is at the most over point I think she's ever been in her career, and I think it's through actual hard work, so God bless her. She did an interview with Steph as well, which you'll probably see on our YouTube channel as well at some point too, talking some of that, so look forward to that. But it was fun. It was a car crash. Everything you guys said, like you said, JP, very similar to the AEW ladder match in that it was more wince-inducing, especially watching it live, but made for a better time, so very much enjoyed it compared to the men's.
I'm going to go 4 stars on this one. For me, it was my clear match of the night.
You going that high, Benno?
No, because I still think a lot of it was crap, but it was crap in a good way. You know what I mean? Like,
fair enough. I'll go with that.
3.75, but it's the danger that pulled it up there. Maybe even 3.5, but I liked it more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's getting 4 stars just for that Michinoku driver spot. Fair enough, JP. Honestly, insane. I keep saying that way, but it was. Zoe Stark, honestly, I've been high on her for a while. Like she's been in, was in last year's ladder match as well. She's always plugged into the Becky and Trish feud well as well, and now she's hooked up with Sonya Deville and Shayna Baszler as like a little group going on Raw. So I'm a big fan of Stark. Big fan.
Well, going from that into our main event, Matty, of course, going on last.
Here we go. Here we go. Of course, the lads are going on last. Of course,
the lads. Is Tanga Lowen included in the lads anymore? Or is he just like we just leave him to the aside having a nice coffee on Young Street? Yeah, for a fucking reason. I think they figured it out already.
Of course.
Oh yeah, that lad we had that was called Camacho 15 years ago. He's not actually gotten better. Oh well. Anyway, stand on the outside in a suit and you can't even do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say he looks good in a suit and he's a good heavy on the outside. So
you can't do fucking low blow. Is he a good heavy? I think like
I was going to say he's not
would be able to hit a low blow, but we'll get to that. But Solo Tamara and Jacob Fatu against Cody, Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. SmackDown again was weird because you had the Bloodline doing just a backstage promo, and Cody, Randy and Kevin came out and just did like a babyface rah-rah promo. Kevin Owens talked about his mum being sick and they just left, and it was like, oh, okay, that's our final bill for the match. But the positive of that, again, over baby faces. Like, just like Steph came down from the media bit, because the media bit in here in the Scotiabank was way up at the top in the gods, like in the rafters where Sting had come down from. That's where they had them all. They got free popcorn and drinks though, Matty, so I'm sure you would have found a way to sneak in. But she snuck out for the majority of the show and sat near the floor with us. And she had to go back up for the press conference, so she was going to go for the main event. I was like, stay for the entrances, because like they're gonna be great, and they were. You know, the Bloodline were, despite it being solo SIkoa. You know, it's a good entrance, and it was over. But seeing Cody, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens come out and just like that escalation of pops, like Kevin Owens, obviously, you know, as the Canadian, gets a great reaction. Randy Orton as like the legacy star, no pun intended, gets a great reaction. You know, always has, hasn't he? Always over on the house shows. And then Cody Rhodes came out, and it was fucking. I know they don't know if they use like the meter thing they've been using. They just used that for Cena, but way louder for Cody. Way louder for Cody. And once you add all the pomp and circumstance and the fireworks and stuff, like before with the show as well on the way in, saw his bus parked outside, which just to me adds to that superstar feel. You know, Cody's got a Lex Express with fucking Pharaoh the dog painted on the side of it outside the building. This feels like Cody Rhodes' touring wrestling promotion right now. He is every bit the figurehead of this company now, from that stuff to the media stuff he does to, you know, the shows and the matches themselves. Like, gigantic megastar coming out here. It was cool to see. And then the match happened.
Well, come on. I'm waiting for that. You know, and it was your typical 6-man SmackDown match up until the ref went down. And we said this last year about a couple of the Bloodline matches, didn't we? And then it all started kicking off then. To which I was saying on the weekend show, I'm really surprised.
Solo SIkoa in them as well.
He wasn't. He was on the outside of them ones.
Not his fault. Probably Jay saw those ones. Jimmy, like.
But we said, didn't we, JP, that like we wish this would have been like a no holds barred, like the Leon match. You know what I mean? And it would have been, and it basically turned into that when the ref went down, didn't it? And that's when it all escalated. But before we go into that, got to say that early spot with Jacob Fatu where he just no-sold Randy's draping DDT and just got up and just looked at him. Straight from the off, they protected him something rotten in this match, and fair play, and they should do as well. Then once we got all that, I love the bit where him and KO, like I said it on Twitter, just let them have a no holds barred. That could be honestly a match you talk about for years. Fatu v Kevin Owens. If you just let them two go out and kill each other, that would be so good. But when he like threw on the outside and he missed the splash into the post and he killed the ref, I loved that spot. I thought that was brilliant. But then even after that, you know, KO give Jacob the splash through the announce table. We got Solo, which the only bit it didn't like of the match, but then it made sense at the end.
Solo, yeah, fair enough.
No, Solo got all the finishes, didn't he? When the ref he got everyone's finisher. And was left to dead, and it was up to Jacob Fatu to basically save him, and that's the story going into SummerSlam, obviously, because I know a lot of people are down on Solo getting the big shot against Cody. Yeah, that's what they're good. That's what wait there. Have you finished? That's what they're going to sell it on. Obviously, if that we've got this madman on the outside that could help this guy get the world title.
That the match instead.
That'll happen, Benno. You got to pay off Solo's. Wait, let me finish because I'm going. You know, I need to train a thought for this. Fucking hell. And then what I did say, called it weeks out, and it's not. I'm not Nostradamus, but I knew this international incident. I always say would happen. Vader pinning Shawn Michaels, getting the world title shot at SummerSlam, which is happening now with Solo SIkoa. But you've got to play into it, Benno, with Solo telling the story of the Roman stuff as well. So it makes sense him getting this shot at SummerSlam. So go on, what? He's crap, is he? Is that what we're going with? He's shit. Is that what it is?
He's Jacob Fatu.
It's a big problem.
No, he's not. No, he's not. He's not JP. I agree with that. He's not Jacob Fatu. He's not.
It's a big gaping hole in this in everything they're doing. The story makes sense. The characters are over. It's working for, you know, that WWE audience. Like, everyone's loving it. It makes sense as the next story beat to do. Oh yeah, Cody faces him, and then, you know, we get to the Roman stuff. That's another thing over in all the buildings the entire weekend. We want Roman chants. You know, there's clearly something there. But the actor portraying the role of the Solo SIkoa character can't talk, can't wrestle, and has no presence. Like, he's shit. He's so bad. I haven't seen him live. I don't think
he's that bad, Ben, on where you're going on. Like, he's on the worst. He's not.
they're putting him in the main event of SummerSlam. There's a standard, and he doesn't hit it. He doesn't come close to it.
Like
He's not an NXT Takeover main eventer.
Wait a minute, you big baby face who's the best in the world. You just told me, can he like make Solo Sikoa look good at SummerSlam now? If he's your face of the company, can't he do that now? Is he not being able to do it? No, but
so we shouldn't consider whether Solo's good or not.
The way you're going on, he's like he's fucking, you know, like you're saying he was so bad. He's not that bad, Benno. Wow,
he's got nothing. He's got literally nothing. He's got no potential. He's got no presence. He's got no promo skills.
I think he's getting better on the promos. I think he's.
I'm not saying he's the greatest wrestler in the world. Why invest all this time in somebody who's so mediocre at so many things? Like, he's not even good at projecting his character when he's on screen and doing these segments. He's not even good at wearing a suit. Like, he's just not good. Like, that's the problem here. This whole story is over as like it's like the remnants of Roman getting it there and the Usos getting it there. Like, but the characters that they've got in these positions right now, he's terrible. Tonga Loa is one of the worst wrestlers of all time, and I'm glad that you finally come around.
Yeah, he's not great. He's not great.
Tama Tonga's all right. You know, he's going to fit.
He's been doing well,
yeah, it's going to rely on. Yeah, and he fits in well to the new machine. And I'd say with Jacob, the biggest thing with him in this match was he was very clearly out of watching it live from like the seats. You could see he was out of place for a few things, and that's just he's learning Fed style. You know, he's learning how they time things out, which ways they face, and things like that. And that was quite clear. But if you accept that and think, well, he's learning on the job, and he's going to learn very quickly because he's so good, you know. But like, you kind of give him that. He goes out there, he's got so much more presence than Solo Sikoa, and the rest of them pretty much. So much better worker, so much better at execution. Seems to know his character better than those guys as well, and he just makes them look bad with how good he looks.
But he can't just jump in because you're telling that story, Benno, aren't you? He can't just jump into the main event straight away at SummerSlam. You've got to pay this story off, haven't you?
I suppose you do. I mean, you could do Paul Heyman versus Cody Rhodes instead, couldn't you? And if Cody Rhodes is so good, he carries.
Well, I was going to say,
if he's
the greatest fucking babyface of all time, which you keep getting told, well, you just wax lyrical about him. If he can't deliver a main event against Solo Sikoa or something, he might as well pack in, mightn't he? He might as well not bother.
Where do you Bretro boys get these goalposts? Fucking hell.
Oh, but it's like, you just said he's tying the company along on his own. You basically just said that less than 5 minutes ago. So if he can't deliver a main event match against Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam, he might as well pack in, because Steve Austin will have, a Bret Hart will have, a Shawn Michaels would have, all these legendary figures would have. If he can't do that, he might as well give the belts up on Raw the next night. That's what he might as well do.
That's nonsense, because every wrestler you've just listed as our good and bad matches, and every wrestler you've just listed as our matches against good and bad opponents, and you've got choices about who you could put him in there with, and they're putting him in there with. He can't carry it. The story is great, and the story is over.
That will carry
Solo Sikoa versus Cody. No, it's not a SummerSlam main event. It's pushing it too far. It's just not good.
It's not that bad. It's the way that pushing it too, because I've heard this a lot, and it's basically from non-WWE. I'm not. Well, you do watch it, but you know what I mean. It's not someone who's invested. No, but it's not one. It's not as invested as much. You're not though, are you? For as much as you watch it, you're not invested as much, and that's what I keep hearing this all the time. And it's by people who aren't invested.
It'll take you so far. I don't think it'll take you through.
I don't think it's that bad the way you're going. I'm not saying he's the greatest wrestler or the greatest. He's far from the finished product. I agree with that. But the way people are wording it, like yourself, that it's this big, it shouldn't be this. It's fine. It's for the story that they're telling. I've got no problem at all with it. At all.
I think fine for the SummerSlam main event.
No, I don't mean in that sense. Just fine. I'm saying it. You know what I mean? That was taking me this all weird there. Go on.
I think there's a few things that ultimately, do I think it'll matter? No, but
is
there is there any chance?
Well, you can do anything, then put Paul Heyman in the match. Then tell me why you're not doing that.
But you're going extreme, aren't you? No pun intended.
This is extreme. This is like a bottom 20% wrestler on the roster.
No,
given the stature of like, this is a stadium show as well, and I would have thought personally, like, if you're going to SummerSlam, the logical thing was him and Randy Orton. You had story, you had star power. It would have been like that direction to go in, and then you could do Solo.
Tell the Bloodline story another way.
Yeah, that you could do that. There's
without
other
that
things.
Match.
exactly. You could have something with like Solo and Jey Uso, like and get away with that stuff. It feels
I'd be getting shit
This
on even more,
six-man
don't
we
you
just
think? I'd be getting shit on even
it wouldn't
more.
be the main event though. That would be
It
wouldn't
that
be
would
the
be
main
the thing
event,
about
yeah.
it. Yeah. I mean, it's one of these
They don't
things
have
where
to do Solo Sikoa versus Cody Rhodes. I don't understand why they have to do it. They've just done a match, which was a great way of furthering this story. They could follow it up with a fucking Shield versus Evolution. The follow-up match is fucking hardcore match. That'd be fine, and have something else main event. They don't
Punk and
have
Drew,
to
you
put Solo
say?
Sikoa. Yeah, it's hot enough. They don't have to put Solo Sikoa versus Cody Rhodes in a singles match to tell this story. They're choosing to do that, and it's a bad choice.
That's whatever. Then.
there is that part of me that thinks they feel like they can get away with this stuff now at this point because it's a hot product in front of hot crowds who are just rather like this match. It's like the match itself didn't fucking matter. It's the bits at the beginning and at the very end and the odd kind of like moment or two within the match, like Jake Fatu popping up from the DDT and stuff like that. They can get away with that kind of stuff. It's just that it could and it should be better than this. I think there's that like pushing him to the moon very, very a lot quicker than what they should be doing. Like this is stuff that we should be thinking for Survivor Series. Give it a bit more time, possibly give it a bit more heat. Then I think that'd be absolutely fine. Particularly if he's say gone and I don't know destroyed his brother at SummerSlam and stuff like that. You could get away with that.
He's the hottest heel, though, Benno. You're saying Cody's the hottest baby. He's the hottest heel in the company, right? Who's hotter? Who's
The
a hotter
story
heel?
is over, but
He's getting
he's the
every
wrong
fuck
choice.
you. He's getting every whether you say that's whatever heat you want to call it. He's getting the most heat. Chicago, Madison Square Garden, Toronto. He's the most over heel they've got going up against the most over babyface. Makes sense to me. Maybe call me stupid, call me silly.
How much?
There we go.
How much has he got to do with that overness?
What do you mean?
It's not his promos. It's not his performances. He's just a warm body. He could be anyone.
So that could be anyone.
Tangaloa get the same response.
No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't. You took it too far now. He wouldn't. He wouldn't.
You defend that too, though, wouldn't you?
No, I wouldn't.
Well. Investments in stories. It's a positive. I'll take it.
Well, anyway, we'll disagree to the end of time. I don't want the bloodline.
I do wonder as they go to SummerSlam, are they just going to have this as some? I mean, in effect, they'll always have it like bloodline rules and whatever, and they'll just have it as wacky shit happening around the place. Yeah. Cody will bleed. It'll be like all bells and whistles, and that might be their get out of jail card. It's just that you shouldn't be thinking of like, what do we need to do to save a match? You can go, or you don't have to do it. You're not actually forced.
Well, they're going to do Roman versus Solo Sikoa, and that's how we're going to find out whether Roman.
We'll see how good
if he can't get a good match out of Solo Sikoa,
here we go. We'll see how
Roman couldn't get a good match out of Jey Uso. What are you on about? It's no proof of anything. It's just a bad choice to put that match together. But that's the problem. That the story is over. Everything about it is great. It's doing record business, but the butt is constantly going to be Solo Sikoa. But Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa is going to have to be a match that they do at some point, and it'd be so much better with a more competent wrestler in the position. But yeah, I don't see that changing. We'll see. It's over in the building, though, Matty. People enjoyed it.
That's all that matters, isn't it? Don't know. Go on.
Tell you what else was over. If we're done with the match, post match. We left the arena. We walked out and there was a bloke stood outside with a big megaphone, like Stevie Richards style, and he looked a bit like Jason Agnew. And I was like, "Is Jason Agnew recording a podcast like outside the arena, like or something like that?" Walked over, legitimate street preacher, like telling us all that we're all going to burn in hell. It was fucking. He had like a stable around him with big goons stood in front of him while he just talked shit to the audience. But he clearly done his research because he was going, you think that WWE is going to give you salvation? Well, you're all living in the hell in the cell of life. Jesus died for your sins. Eddie Guerrero died for nothing. Mr. Perfect, do you think he died for your sins? He didn't. And he's listed up all these references. I think he even mentioned Owen Hart at one point. It was like, honestly, it was like watching, if he was a heel like gimmick on like some indie show and he was doing that outside for heat, he'd be more over than Solo Sikoa. It'd be the most over like heel in the in Canada. Like it was unreal. Like it was people were squaring up to him, wanting to fight to him. People were chanting at him, "Shut the fuck up." Fuck your god, I think was the chant that he got from some of the wrestling fans out there. It was, it was something that you don't get when you come out of a wrestling show in England, like full on, like I say, like the type of stuff you'd see in a documentary, JP, with all the believers stood around them, like all wearing the same kind of shirt and ties, blocking people out. My God, what a
Was
world.
he an old bloke? Are you sure it wasn't like a Canadian indie wrestler going, right, I am going to shoot
That's what I thought, honestly. 30s, 40s, and he had a couple of other preachers with him. And like I say, a big bodyguard type stood in front of him that'd be a heater. But no, he's just being a cunt, just saying audible things and trying to rile people up. He wasn't converting anybody in that audience, but
No.
yeah.
At least he'd done his own work. I'll give him his dues on that one. But perhaps like the I don't know, bringing up Owen Hart for God's sakes. I mean, like Jesus Christ, you need to be doing that outside. That's incredible, though.
Yeah,
like,
it was rough.
Oh, good old street preachers.
Yeah. Sort of bit of real culture there, but yeah, that's it really. And then I say, got me free towel, got me free bottle of Prime, and headed home. I got a free C4 Energy one of the nights as well. That fucking knocked me. I was
nice. I was gonna say.
5 minutes after drinking it, I was wired. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Like it was proper. Like I had to get a beer to calm myself down. Like it was that like. Whatever they put in that stuff, the nuts out there, aren't they? Not quite the same as a 7-Eleven, but even more. 7-Eleven, you get a drink in there. There's caffeine in the fucking lemonade. Like, it's just in everything. It's just one of those things. 7-Eleven was also the place where I saw the most crimes. I reckon every day the 7-Eleven below Steph's, we saw someone like nicking stuff, or like so one fella walk in with just a backpack, just empty a load of stacks into it and then run out the other side. It was literally constant. Crime hotspot is 7-Eleven in America and Canada.
Fuck that for a job. Jesus,
I know. You could tell the staff were just like, we're not paid enough to deal with this.
Yeah.
What can you do?
And they've got guns over there. Not worth the bother.
Not at all. But yeah, anything else on Money in the Bank before we get into Heatwave, Matthew? I imagine this will be a lot quicker.
I'm just looking forward to SummerSlam, mate. It can't come quick enough now. August the 3rd. Can't wait for it.
Seeing the bell has to ring, innit? Like, oh well.
Well, you just said at the beginning of this podcast that's what us WWE fans don't really care about. So you know.
But again, my defense is you do, but you care about the outcome. You care about the things that happen in the match. You know, it was very, very interesting being among a WWE card for the pay-per-view, and yeah, I was among them again. This is the last night for Heatwave. This would be last night in Toronto as well, so I was considering just binning it off and. I don't know, going to a bar or something, I'll get some food, go and have a meal at New King or something. But decided to go to Heatwave.
I was going to say, will you be made up with the outcome? Because one of your all-time boys won the world title here, mate.
That made it worth it. Yeah. That made it worth it. We heard he was. We had a few drinks afterwards, and we heard he was out celebrating. He was posting TikToks of himself, wasn't he, with the belt at some rooftop bar in Toronto. We should have tried to find him. But yeah, it was one of them. It was like, it's a Sunday night. It's a pay-per-view bit on. I'll go. And it was a lot more. I was hoping there'd be like. Tickets going for like £3, like the day of All In, but I think they were smart about it. There was a lot of tarpaulin. There was a lot of like just blacked out seats for Heatwave, like an entire half of the arena, which made me think like my biggest takeaway on this. I don't have much on the individual matches, so I do think this will be short. But my biggest takeaway was it should have been the Saturday. As much as I like to do pay-per-views on a Saturday. Doing this on the Sunday just felt like a hangover show. Felt like those you remember those PCW shows where the wrestlers would wrestle hungover and do like a peace and quiet match where they try not to take bumps because it would wreck their headache. That's what it felt like. The crowd was just full of people who'd already had a weekend full of wrestling and weren't necessarily as up for it. And I think that maybe translated to some of the guys and their entrances here, but can't say that, in the matches themselves, they weren't pulled into it, even if I was sat there perplexed, drinking me Coke and having my second Scotiabank hot dog of the weekend.
I don't know, mate. Apparently, according to Cage Match, this is the 22nd greatest show of all time.
That's what I'm told.
I'm not sure about that.
It's a big disconnect.
But it's a different audience, isn't it? And that's the thing. Yeah. I was sat there with some people going like, this just isn't for me, and that's okay. This is for a different audience. This is for a younger audience that exists for a different purpose, to get over young wrestlers and to get them ready for the main roster. You know, such great young stars as Sean Spears, the 10-man. But there are other people in there as well. But should we start with the main event with this one? Because we'll try, like I say, we'll blow through it.
Yeah.
Main event was Ethan Page winning the NXT World Title, beating Sean Spears, Trick Williams, and a man called Javon Evans. That was the other thing, as well as we do in the Fightful preview with Steph for Forbidden Door. She'd asked me to do the preview for this weekend as well. And I was like, I wouldn't know any of the names. I wouldn't know any of the people. I've never seen Javon Evans in my life. Is he new? I guess he is. But I was impressed by him. He was a fun little different thing on here. And yeah, I think for me it was the match of the night, the main event. This. And the right thing happened, Matty. Our boy, Ego, going over in Canada of all places. How he went over, we won't talk about it. But, you know, he went over, and that's all that matters.
Ego. I mean, I love this. Like, once again, it just escalated this match for me. And Javon Evans here, I mean, that bump he took through that announce table, because when Spears was like trying to set up for the superplex, and then I thought, they can't tease this without someone taking something off the top through this. Didn't expect that at all. I mean, the way he went through as well looked like he could have broke ribs or anything. The way he landed on that was incredible. And as you say, Benno, 20 years of age he is, and he's had a lot of praise online. I've only seen him a couple of times myself, but when I have, you can just, he's a modern wrestler.
He's one of them Ospreay kids, isn't he?
That's what I mean.
Ospreay once.
Yeah.
He's one of them.
Ricochet, he's a modern wrestler that fitting in with that style, yeah.
Like a GCW opening act, but on the WWE stage. So it kind of makes it like, instead of blending in and being like every other one of those GCW flippy guys, he does stand out a bit on the stage as like this like unpolished diamond. And yeah, some really creative spots in it. The dive they did to the outside,
barricade.
The barricade. It was like, oh my god, the barricade spot. It was actually like inventive and wasn't just the same as all of the other barricade spots that we see every WWE show. I enjoyed that. There were some good, clever ones in here. And I would say as well, Trick Williams massively over too. Maybe it's, you know, it's a bit like the old argument people would make about Danielson. Is it just the yes chant that's over and not him? A lot of it's the whoop that trick thing, but clearly the NXT audience sees him as a star.
This is the thing I think about, like, what was this main event there to achieve? It's like you get the belt off Trick Williams without him losing any steam. If anything, he gains a kind of little bit from it as well. And it worked for that. Even if at the time, I have to say, I'm not mad on those kind of finishes. I get the reasoning behind it, but it's sort of too clever by half, that type of stuff. And I was also thinking, why is Sean Spears pulling him out of the ring? Should he be in there trying to like stop the count from happening? But there you go. And like you mentioned with like Javon Evans as well, I think it's just his flailing he does while he's in the air and the height he gets just sort of adds something to each of the moves of it being like kind of like so crazy. But this was fun. Like, and I think that's probably how I'm going to end up talking about like sort of the other bits of this show. It was fun. And Ethan Page, you feel like, okay, he's done more in NXT in a month than he did in how many years of being in AEW? Like, I mean, it says a lot, doesn't it, as well? And it feels like he kind of fits into that mix, like, very, very well. You'll be up on the main roster in no time because you can see them kind of like really enjoying it as well. Even when he came out with his "I reside in the USA" jacket, which I thought was somewhat of an inspired piece in there, like all very, very stars and stripesy.
I've seen it as well. Like, I absolutely, as much as I like Ego, let's call him Ethan Page, I understand his limitations. You know, it's like, it's almost, I know Garrett says there's no guilty pleasures, but he kind of is for me, in that I know his matches is generally quite bad. But I think he's a good promo. Again, carries himself well.
Natural heel, isn't he?
Natural heel. He was always on the indies, almost seen of as like a wrestler in the mold of an MJF. And he's a wrestler who, those types of positive, like self-promotion, you know, what he does with his YouTube channels and things like that. Like, he's the type of wrestler who fell through the cracks in AEW because he doesn't fit that. You know, Tony Khan can have a cool match graphic and put, you know, these great in-ring wrestlers against each other, and you can argue, well, if he doesn't fit that mold, he shouldn't be in the company in the first place. But I think it maybe shows a little bit of the limited thinking of the way Tony Khan books, that he couldn't find a spot for a good undercard. And it would be undercard for me, undercard heel, like Ethan Page in your company, and at the same time, still not a gigantic loss, you know, when he left. But you can see WWE are clearly that's the mission statement, isn't it? We're going to take things that you fuck up in AEW and we're going to make them matter here. And they couldn't have done better by him, could they, Matt? Like you see it in the interview, he's talking about how he sees WWE Machine as just a much more professional backstage environment compared to the messiness of, I think that was the way he put it, backstage in AEW, and it seems like a perfect fit for him. It's only NXT, he can be their world champion. Do I see him making main roster? Maybe, and maybe being an undercard SmackDown heel or something like that. But he's a good wrestler for this spot, I think, and he'll work well with the younger guys.
Yeah, as we said there, just the way he carries himself as that natural heel, he's just made for this type of wrestling TV, isn't he? For definitely NXT, and as you say, maybe get that little SmackDown, maybe get that big match with Cody on the main roster. They've been overthrown world title matches out there. Maybe him and Cody can.
Cody will want that to happen.
Yeah. But I like the finish. I know it's had a bit of an it's just Shawn Michaels NXT booking run is just him recreating all his angles and finishes and matches. And this is the Backlash 2007 Fatal 4-Way finish done completely with Cena, Edge, Randy Orton, and I think it was Shawn Michaels, obviously. And this was the carbon copy. But I've seen people say, JP, I haven't been following the TV as much, Benno, lately with NXT, of course, but I think Speezy just wanted Chick to lose more than he wanted to win, JP. So that's the kind of story he's telling. But I like the ending. It just gives Ethan Page that like typical heel way of winning the belt. And I like the way he was unconscious still. And then when he come round and he was so chedded when he seen that belt that he clicked that he won. It fit him perfect. Yeah, I thought it fit well. Yeah, so I loved it. Love this match.
Any thoughts on that or any of the highlights from the show, JP? Get into my thoughts.
I want to give a shout out. I mean, there's two other matches I'd give a shout out to. One is the opener with Obafemi and Wesley. I thought Wesley did a cracking job of getting the most out of Obafemi, who he has something now, whether that's sustainable, because these kind of guys come and go. So I'm not going to be, let's say, like all in. But I mean, I have to say that one spot he did where he just threw him up into the air and he just Wesley span around a load of something. I was like, fucking hell. F50, mate, is what it was. He only did about 10 rotations in the air.
He's someone who you can absolutely picture. Like, there's the guys in NXT you just can't in a million years picture on the main roster. You can picture him on Raw, can't you? And it would be Raw, not SmackDown. Like, I would just see that push in the next 18 months or so. The only thing I was surprised at, and it maybe gave an indication of the crowd, it felt like a lot of people who went because they just got weekend tickets or he was in Toronto all weekend. He wasn't that over on his entrance. He got over in the match, so that's a credit to him. But I thought as the hot thing in NXT right now, he was going to get a gigantic reaction. Didn't really. It took the match itself to do it. I thought this was all right. Notch below what I was kind of hoping with this, but maybe I'd had too high hopes with Obafemi's, like you say, JP, limited experience at this point. But it was good enough.
Sorry, go on, mate.
No, I'm just saying there, JP, I think I said on the weekend show, he should just never lose. Just never in his career. Obafemi, just let him just fucking keep winning, blow through everyone. Honestly, I think he's got that something, JP.
He does. I mean, I think there's just things I'm surprised by. Like, I mean, even his cardio in working a match with a guy like Wesley who moves so quickly and doing something there. I kind of looked at him and I thought, I'm quietly impressed that he'd managed to do that as well. I thought his selling was all right. Like, consider like with Wesley as well, who again, he can't be overstated. I think what a cracking job he did. And he's a guy as well who, in some ways, if you're going to have the belt on Ethan Page for a little bit and you need an interim kind of challenger for, say, I don't know, Great American Bash or whatever, putting Wesley into a slot like that isn't the worst thing in the world to be able to do. So, yeah, that was a match that I thought that like I took something from that. And the other match that for me did something here was the tag team match.
JP.
I thought this was cracking stuff. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. In some ways, again, I watch NXT shows with a lower expectation level because what is it there to do? It's there to get people ready for the main roster. So I never shit on the things that if it was on a main roster, like if it was on Money in the Bank or on Forbidden Door, I'd probably be a hell of a lot more critical of. I'm a lot more forgiving with NXT because it's hitting its mission statement of preparing people for the main roster. And if you look at the recent call-ups in very recent times, it's working. We've spoken about a few on Money in the Bank, and you can see how that is the case. Here, I thought like this was very much like I thought just a very good tag team match. The crowd were utterly invested in. I could give less of a shit about Chase U, but by the end, I didn't feel that way. I was like, fucking hell, I was like reacting
know
to
what,
some of the bloody near falls.
This match, right, reminded me of one of them old school NXT, like Alpha Academy DIY, where it's going along good, very good, and then it gets great with them, with the crowd popping, JP coming unglued, which you didn't get much until the main event in this show, where that spot where, what was it? Where it was the Spanish Fly into the Phoenix Splash, but then when Andre Chase done the step off Destroyer to break up the pin, JP, the fans, though, it was that old school black and gold take over the NXT crowd type of match, getting into it, and then they followed up with the miscommunication spots that Axiom and Frazier done, and people bought the roll up by Chase as another great near fall, another great reaction, and then even the finish was great as well. I thought these like really Andre Chase as well, JP. Got to give him some credit for wrestling in that fucking t-shirt with jumper over. He must have been fucking sweating. He looked to me, and I've only seen him a few times, one of those good bad wrestlers. He just looks a bit awkward, doesn't he? But he pulls the moves off. It's just dead weird. But yeah, he's all right.
It was really, I mean, and Duke Hudson is obviously limited.
Yeah.
But then this is where you get into your Nathan Fraser. I can't remember his old name before he became Nathan Fraser, what he was when he was in AEW for that one time, when he was still eating all right. I don't know if he's still at this stage. And Axiom, obviously, as a kid, we saw a ton of times over here, but it was such a slick, well-oiled machine. And obviously they were telling a story as well, which is the longer-term story of their breakup at some stage.
Ben Carter, JP, his name was in AEW.
That's it. But then, like, and with that miscommunication sort of tying into it as well, I thought this was just like, again, you think, what do you want from a match like this? It's like when Chase U end up getting those titles back, it ends up meaning something, even if in the moment I couldn't have fucking cared. Like before the match, I was just like, oh, who are these? But we're the Mafia lads. They're not involved in this show. We've got these boys instead. It's like, okay, I see their gimmicks every once in a while, and I'm just like completely left. Like, it's very weird. People pretend to be at a university. It's like, no, you're professional wrestlers in a training school. Like, you're not doing degrees on the side. If by previous experience, wrestlers and doing lots of that stuff, it doesn't really seem to.
Only Raven, JP.
Only Raven, yeah, and Luchasaurus, of course. Like they're the only other people who end up doing this. But I thought this was like, I thought this was, I don't know, I suppose between that and the main as like being like the kind of like the clear matches of the night. But yeah, like I thought this was thoroughly enjoyable.
We're saying as well, I forgot to mention about Obafemi, JP, only 26 as well. So I mean, that's like untapped potential, that, mate, for sure. And yeah, but Jay, what about here? I get Benno's thoughts on this as well. I mean, it's doing the rounds on social media, isn't it? This Sol Rucher versus Kalani Jordan discourse. I mean, what's your take on this one?
So my thought on this is like, and very clearly they did a move for move like retake of Ospreay Ricochet. I don't know why. Because really what it came across to me as is two gymnasts doing that moveset. And they didn't do it anywhere near the pace and with the kind of efficiency that obviously Ospreay and Ricochet did. Because that was the whole point in the moment when you watched that, when they were in Korakuen having that match and that moment. It was like a million miles an hour and it happens so quickly. And by the end, you're like, what the fuck was that? What have I seen? Here it's like, well, we're going to do this. We're going to do this with a couple of gymnasts as well. And it doesn't have the same energy and pace. Again, I am probably predisposed to try and shit on stuff like this. I suppose I admired their ambition for some of the stuff they did. Like, it was like Kalani Jordan clearly can do a good bit of flippy stuff, but it feels like in between those moments, they're not really ready for prime time, but neither should they be. This is the stage where they develop and they kind of, they learn on the job in that way. But yeah, it was very weird to watch.
It was weird to be in the arena watching it because, like, for me, overall, I watched this style of NXT where they have these. It does mainly seem to be the women. It's almost like a throwback, but they throw these women on TV who aren't ready to be on TV, and instead of them doing the basics, they're doing like moves that they probably shouldn't be yet, moves that they probably can't fully pull off the context of yet, and it's up and down the roster. But then when these moves happen, that's when the crowd were exploding. It was like watching an indie show. It was like watching, for its faults, people criticize indie wrestling about just being about moves and high spots. A lot of the NXT style is just high spots, isn't it? Like the fundamentals aren't really there with a lot of these guys and girls. And maybe, as you said, JP, that's probably part of the reason for NXT's existence. But they do seem to cover it up with a very, very indie style work. And like you saw it in this match with the over ambition for those individual spots, but they got over. Same thing, we're looking at the Chase U stuff in their match. Like the what was the most over thing in that match? The Canadian Destroyer. Yeah. It was like being watching an indie show in 2017, wasn't it? And like the crowd were dead until they did that spot, and then it was "This is awesome" chants and loving the near falls, and it was just like. Maybe it was because I was sat there as like you said, JP, a stuck in the mud kind of older fan who this isn't for, and I'm sat back with my arms crossed, going, "Go on, impress me," and like just being bemused at how easily the audience was impressed by a lot of this stuff, and how this stuff did get over. But if it's over and it's working, can you really criticize it with both barrels? I'm just looking at it going, well, it's for somebody. I'm just not that somebody, all of this stuff. And same thing happened when I logged onto Twitter after the show, and I had praise for that match, and I had massive praise for the Chase U tag. And it was just like, I mean, for me, it was almost like being there live. You could just see it at the seams. You could see stuff they were trying and failing to do not get over, and then the big spots got over. And it was like, I don't know if that's through good work or just the crowd are here to see spots, but it did work at the end of the day.
I'm a bit in between on the Sol Ruka Jordan match, because I agree what you're saying. It was that word's been used, the gymnast. I know Alvarez has been big on that word, but I agree, JP, that like in between that, like the facials and the holds, as you say, they're non-existent, aren't they? They're just not even there at all. But then, as you say, when you're hitting 450 clotheslines and that come off well, it's like your hat's got to go off. So you can't do in between, aren't you? And I say it's one of them matches that'll be talked about, rightly or wrongly.
Having a good match in itself is often a work. It's always the thing we talked about with Kurt Angle. People have this memory of these great Kurt Angle TNA matches. Now, there's no structure to those matches. It was 15 minutes of near falls, and I think wrestling fans have got one. If you get hot near falls, your match is going to get like 4 stars minimum, because that's all anybody remembers. And the whole thing's a work, but there's actually like a sub work, which is working people into believing they've saw something more than they did. And like that was all over the show for me. But again, I'm not better than anybody who's there, who's cheering for it and loving it, and is marking this as highly as they are on cage match. Just tastes, I guess.
I think that though, Ben, the cage match thing, like you're saying there about the newer fan. People our age, well, there will be people our age who do obviously use cage match and such, but I think that generation of new fan, that's all they know is cage match, isn't it? So they're gonna go straight onto that to like rate these shows as much as anything else straight away.
It's like everything, isn't it? If I liked it, it's not a 6 or a 7. If I liked it, it's 10. If I didn't like it, it's 0. That's in everything. That's in restaurant reviews. That's in everything. So everything's 10, innit? If that's your perspective on it, and you haven't seen the very similar indie matches that do a lot of this stuff, and even if you have seen it, if you're just invested in these characters and these wrestlers doing it, then fair enough. Yeah,
that's it, Ben, innit?
Anything we haven't talked about from there?
It was just the Roxanne Perez match. The only match I didn't get a chance to watch was that title defense. So I was that Benno. Roxanne, I mean, she's pushed as like a big star, didn't she? Did she come across well in the building?
She did. She comes across. You can see why Punk's taken an interest in both of these. But she came across very much like the champion. It was all right for what it was, really. Again, it had a couple of those ropey spots near the end where you could see the seams coming out at it, but again, 2 people at the crowd, mostly again once the match got going,
but
gave a good
reaction to Perez's credit though, and I know she's been at it a lot longer than Jade Cargill. She didn't have the deer in the headlights when she botched one of the finishes. She just got right up, done another one straight away. That just shows you how long she's been wrestling at a young age, you know what I mean? So hopefully
absolutely, that Ring of Honor stuff she did and all that definitely has massively helped. And she feels a lot more seasoned than the other people in the company. It's just the people she's in there with is often the problem. But yeah,
I think
good stuff.
Yeah, I'd go with your thoughts. I thought that this was probably, like, I suppose, slightly the dullest match, but it was more that how Roxanne Perez kind of coped under that pressure of botch the finisher, just seemed to get up, hit that code red again, and just like, no, we're going to do this. And she's 22.
Yeah.
It's the thing with her is I'm not entirely convinced that she'll be great on the main roster. I think for what they look for, I think she'd be more of just your standard kind of mid-card heel/face. But this is experience and training and everything else, and how she's slotted into the heel role has been like, it's been good.
Yeah.
Whether or not she's going to hit those kind of like those heights of what, say, Tiffany Stratton is doing on the main roster, I'm not quite sure.
But she carries herself so well, Perez. That's
the
thing as well. So yeah, you'll see how she gets
a
on.
long way in this company.
It does.
Well, yeah. Anything else, Matt? Overall, fun show.
The
less that everyone else did, but yeah. For me, it was about the main event, and the rest of it was kind of window dressing. But say people were much higher than me on some of those matches there, specifically the Chase U one, and obviously the Obafemi Wesley Open. I know a lot of people loved as well, but yeah, it was definitely, it's one of those weekends though where it was like, it wasn't like the in-ring standard was hugely high at Money in the Bank, so I can understand people saying NXT kind of ate the lunch when it came to the in-ring this weekend. It wasn't like there was a high level of a competition.
Well, that's the thing with me. Sorry, JP. This was the NXT card that going in on paper to me was like, oh, it mightn't be great this, but watching it, I was impressed. Like that, I say the closing stretch of that tag title match was old school NXT for me. The 4-way, I loved that 4-way match. And yeah, Obafemi, I just love him. I just hope, as I keep saying, you just should never lose, JP. Just keep him fucking going forever. Gold big, that triple gold big. Just get them numbers up.
I can tell he's going to be a guy. For sure.
It definitely over-delivered for what it was. And I think an interesting note on this, 2 hours 24 is what the running time was.
It was a lot short. Yeah, that's a good... Sorry, from the live point of view. So these shows started at 7 local times. That means midnight our time, doesn't it? Apparently that's a new change, which is a positive for the people in our part of the world. Being there for it, yeah, that was mad. It was like 9:20 and we were done. Whereas, to be fair, despite, we didn't really mention it, Money in the Bank, despite not having as many matches as AEW did, it still ran pretty fucking long, the Money in the Bank show, with all the in-between matches stuff. But again, there's positives to that when you do want to get up and get a piss and stuff. But a Sunday night show for NXT, that was about right, really.
Wait, sorry, Jake,
didn't outstay its welcome.
Didn't you get your calculator out, Benno? No, on time. The amount of in-ring wrestling he was.
Whether I got my money's worth. That's Tony Khan, Matt, innit? The more matches you get, the more value you're getting. Therefore, you're getting more money as a pay-per-view buyer. I'll remember that next time I go see a film. You're like, why is this not 12 hours long? Then I'll be getting more money's worth. Rather than being sat there in hour 6 going, all right, lads, it's gone on a bit now. You know what I mean? So you can tell your story in 3. He says in his podcast that's about to go through.
I was saying in the pre-show before I went to see A Quiet Place day 1. That's an hour and 40 minutes. I didn't want to see that fucking 3 hours 30 of that. I'd have just walked out if that's the case. You combine the running time for Money in the Bank and Heatwave, and it is the same, including the pre-show, as what Forbidden Door was.
With 5 less matches.
Hour and a half of wrestling on that pre-show, 5.5 hours combined for both. And there is a lesson there. And I think this is where we get into the happy medium territory. Can we, crazy idea, try 8 match cards? Yeah? A little bit less filler in terms of like your video packages and endless stuff. I never need to see Dante Chen's face again, telling me about like, which I'm sure I saw on the last sort of big show that I saw at NXT. It was like, this is exactly the same video package. But
I think WWE, like, even if it's not 8, I still think 5's not enough. I think it does feel a little bit like this is it. You know what I mean? Like, even as nice as it was to get away early on the Sunday night, I think 6 is a more reasonable number. Like, it's only one more match. You can still do your Triple H, slow bleed stories. You're still not giving too much more away. 5 is a low number for a pay-per-view. I'm surprised they're getting away with it. But when you're hot, you're hot. So there we go.
SummerSlam won't be 5, Benno. SummerSlam won't be 5.
That's
for
true.
sure.
When it's SummerSlam, it's
Yeah.
Mania. That's a bit different, isn't it? But
Yeah.
lessons to learn on both sides, I would say.
Yeah.
But there we go. But yeah, out of Heatwave, I didn't travel to Ottawa for Raw on Monday, unfortunately. Tempted, but decided not to. Not much more to note on that. Outside of there was a good Punk and Seth.
That was very
promo
good, Benno. I thought
segment,
though, really good though. Like it's the best Seth Rollins has been.
I think
for a
Seth was
long
best than
time.
Punk in it, and
Yeah,
that's shocking to say.
Seth
You
was
know
good.
his last line, I can't remember what he closes it with, but Punk, there's a look on Punk's face like, yeah, you got me there, mate.
Yeah, because he was using his line against the consequences of actions.
That was it.
Punk,
Yeah.
And then he nailed it at the end. Brilliant. Fucking boss
Punk
it was.
couldn't justify getting the mic and saying something else. Like, he knew, you know what? You've had me
And he
there,
didn't
Seth.
even mouth nothing really like off mic as well. You could tell he loved it in his head, didn't he? Yeah. No, it was brilliant. It was really, really good. That realism, the way they bled in to like him costing the match, and he said like, you know, next time Punk, when he got in, next time you get in the ring with me, you better not say nothing disrespectful. Thought it was good planting them seeds, Benno, Triple H again for 6 months down the line.
How mad is it that Punk came back to WWE, and I wouldn't have never told you in a million years I'd be excited to see Punk against Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. But here we are. There you go. Good booking. A good characterization can lead you good places, I would say. That's about it, really. There was more Fiend nonsense, Uncle Hardy nonsense on Raw as well.
Rhea Ripley, come back, Benno, come on.
Yeah,
Rhea Ripley's back.
Got a great new t-shirt to go with it as well. Do these merch isn't perfect either. But we should move on. We've talked a lot. We'll probably keep it brief enough. But yeah, anything else we want to mention that we've been watching, lads? I can see there's a documentary corner here on the list. I watched the WrestleMania XL Behind the Curtain. I watched it on the National Express bus back from the airport today. Yeah, it was kind of like a 10-minute documentary repeated over an hour. Maybe it's just because I saw the same clip over and over again during the weekend, but like, there's no substance to this, I didn't think, JP. It was like, yeah, well, we argued back and forth over who was gonna, what we were gonna do with Cody and Roman and stuff. Nobody has to look bad. It just felt like that's the thing when the documentary comes from inside the house. You're not going to get any criticism, whether you agree or not, Matty. You're not going to get somebody going, yeah, we probably were risky not having Cody beat Roman last year. No, that was a great decision. And the decision they ended up with, also a great decision. And the way they could have gone with Roman and Rock, that would have been a great decision too. Yeah. Because it's not, neutral and coming from an external body. I just found it really dry, JP, and quite repetitive, really. And just, it was everybody covering their own corners. I thought I'd have a lot to say on it. And after a long wait, not much, really.
I was really let down by this. If this is the prototype of what the Netflix documentary is going to end up being, then they're going to be dull as dishwater water, and they're not going to have that. Because really what we should be seeing in a documentary like this, in many ways, is fly-on-the-wall footage of arguments in the creative room about why they should abandon the story that they've been telling for 9 months of the year, and why The Rock comes in, who is just... It's when he gets into management speak mode, when he looks like a tech with that tech bro bullshit stuff that's going on. It's just like, it drives me mental. It's hard to hear. And like you say, every option was brilliant. It's like, oh, we could do this story, which would be amazing. Or we could do this story. That would also be amazing. But instead we decided to go with the original story, which is always going to be amazing as well. And then the other stuff we put in a tag match, well, that's just even more amazing than everything else we're going to do. And then you're like, what?
Totally.
What is... I think there's moments in it where you'd want to hear, say, for example, like Cody Rhodes is looking upset. You'd want to hear him kicking off, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And you don't really get any of that stuff. The only other stuff is perhaps stuff that I'm reading into it, where it's clearly when you've got The Rock and Triple H walking together and talking, it's just this passive aggressive off between them both in all of it, because obviously they're in these high positions of power within the company and very sort of like slightly different ends of it as well. And it's like anything that where you're praising like super agents and Endeavor and everything, it always came across like these. He's like, when he's given us like this world title, he's like, oh, I can have this, and he just seemed to walk off with it. Like, I was like, okay, is that actually yours, or are you just taking it?
It's like Sean using Ava, isn't it, on NXT? Who, by the way, is fucking horrendous. Like, it's purely just he doesn't want to piss Sean. He doesn't want to piss Dwayne off, does he? He's like, oh, I'll just to keep Dwayne happy and like bury some of those old hatchets. It's the same thing. It's written all over both of their faces. Like, we didn't used to like each other. Got to work together now, so we're gonna make extra effort. It's a bit like me when somebody doesn't like me. I feel like I put more effort into being nice to them than I do people who do like me. I think that's a psychological problem I've got. But it's like I don't want people, despite my Twitter presence, I don't want people not to like me. So I try. Yeah, you're just trying harder almost. Like, I'm gonna make you me mate. I'm gonna make you realize you're wrong. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening with them too. There were little bits in there that it was a bit like the WCW stuff where it was cool to see some backstage footage. It was cool to see Triple H congratulating Cody, and like there was a little bit of a line in there where it was like he was going, we've got to navigate this now. Me and you, we're going to do this together, type of thing. That was genuinely insightful. Oh, that's quite a few fucks in there, a few swear words. That's how Triple H talks to Cody. That's interesting. I wanted to see more of that, but it was just so polished and so edited. I'm certain there's a version of this documentary that's
100%.
fantastic.
100%.
And maybe it's the one that was gonna go up a month ago or 2 months ago, whenever it was. But this version of it was just sanitized beyond all belief.
The Rock, though. Yeah, we did get that good Rock meme out of it because you're saying everyone covered their own. The Rock took credit for everything on this guy. So, like, he was invented the world, didn't he? What the fuck was he going on about?
I love him on Who Killed WCW, where it's like everyone else has got insightful things to say, and they go to Dwayne, and he's like, well, I saw someone tweet this, so I'm stealing this, but it's like, the thing about WCW is, it stood for World Championship Wrestling. And then the camera goes to someone else. It's like he's got nothing. He's got nothing to say.
On it. Just because he produced it, he literally is the worst talking head on it.
But he should at the same time because they want to sell it, don't they? It's just I wish
but...
you'd think he'd be like, more of like, we were backstage watching, and this was, I remember this when this moment happened. Like you'd think he's had a couple of them, but you'd think he'd have more of them.
Roman, even on that documentary, he had about like 3 fucking segments, and he come across like a normal guy. I wanted to see more of him and how he was reacting to all this going on, because he was in that position where, because he was the champion, no matter what story they went with, he would have been on top. So he looked dead refreshed, didn't he, and looked relaxed about it, but he was still like, would like to see more of that.
There's a clear like friendly rival, it seems to be, between Cody and Roman. You can see it, can't you? Like they have their own camps and they have their own way of doing things, and they're both going for that tippy top spot, and there is a bit of a rivalry there that you could dig into. Be interesting. Didn't really see much of that.
I think this is the big thing they need to take away from this almost. It's like, if this is a dry run for what we're going to be getting, that you need to show the warts and all, because the warts and all is what is going to make this is going to make it more interesting to see. Like a properly, like, kind of had these arguments and these discussions about like the creative process. They're the things that are like a much more of a kind of like a bigger sell. Now, it's not like the other documentary we'll talk about briefly, where it's just fucking full of that. But that makes it infinitely more interesting as like a viewing experience. But ultimately, this is the problem when they've got this, like, they're so used to, as a company, having that element of control. And you see it at the press conference when they're asked any tough questions, they shut down. It's like, we don't do this. We don't allow this kind of conversation to take place on our watch. And anything that is remotely critical of maybe we've not done the right thing, it's just always about trying to spin it into a positive, and that just doesn't make for good telly. So yeah, massively, I thought really disappointing for me.
Anything else you just wanted to reference? I haven't seen the last episode of Who Killed WCW. Did you?
Should we save that for next week, JP?
Save it for next week. I won't be on it, but save that one for next week. I mean, other than I will say is, it's a damn sight. Putting some arguments and some people being fucking angry about shit makes for much better telly as a documentary goes. So you watch that and speak about it next week. Look forward to listening to that one as well. But I enjoyed it overall as a series. But I'll be intrigued to know what you guys say when you get deep into the weeds for it. And then the only other thing is, I put down for a laugh, G1 preview from May. That was a piss take. Like, other than to
who've you got for it this year, Matt? Are you going for it?
Well, I'm only watching Takeshita matches, Benno, aren't I? This year, because he's I'm obviously involved. So, as I say, I'll do my research this week, JP, and I'll make sure on the pre-show, or if I'm on Spotlight next week, I'll give you my actual winner for the whole G1. I'll give you it next week, all right? Just for you.
I'm looking on here about when is it actually starting, the G1. It's starting on the 20th. So you've got that like coming into it. You got like the double header there as well. It's just, is the youth revolution going to mean anything? And like Callum Newman has to be a surprise. That wouldn't have been on like the ticket list of all the rest of the crowd in the G1. Callum Newman being there, but fuck it, they want a Will Ospreay type in there, and they've got themselves a Will Ospreay type in it. And Bolton Oleg, who I don't know if he's any good. Like I think I've heard a lot of talk of like getting him and Obafemi. There's just a couple of fucking big beasts knocking shit out of people in around 10 minutes or so, being kind of like fun for that. But yeah, don't worry about the G1 right now. Certainly not like 2.5 hours into a fucking podcast.
That'll do. Brilliant. Well, yeah, if there's nothing else, that's it for Spotlight. Been glad being back in the hot seat, and glad my internet held up. We were having some problems in the pre-show, which meant I didn't get round to getting to tell you a story about how I got robbed on the underground, Matty, and also about my story going to the East Village and having a nice cheese pizza. East Village might be better than Brooklyn for me now when it comes to New York. Got some bits on that. Maybe we'll do it next pre-show, but there's a teaser for you. The day Benno got robbed.
I want to hear that, Ben. Genuinely so. Wow, as long as you're all right, mate. Obviously.
Good. All good.
Yeah.
When you hear it, you'll laugh. You won't be concerned at all. Don't worry. It's one of them stories.
Was the solo SIkoa, was it, Benno?
I wish it was, to be honest. Once you hear the real story, but yeah, it was. Who did Shawn Michaels get beaten up by? It was a load of sailors or army men or
Navy. The Navy.
Yeah, it was 47 of them. That's what happened. Yeah, it wasn't a teenage girl at all. Anyway, we'll get to that later. Anything else to plug, lads, before we go? Because I observe this is up on the feed right now. We'll have Simon's King of the Mountain show coming up this month as well. We'll do the F Invasion pay-per-view review as well. Yeah, all things back to normal. I've forgotten you were away next week, JP. Ships crossing in the night, me and you at the...
I know. Exactly. One thing I will be doing is I'm going to be on MCU later reviewing Deadpool, as I know they're doing their build up to Deadpool versus Wolverine. So I'm going to be doing that this week at some point as well. But yeah, like I say, like all roads lead to patreon.com/grapple and youtube.com/@grapple as well for loads of shows now. Obviously Bretro's gone is there on the public feed now as well. Loads of brilliant stuff to listen to on there.
I won't probably see you now, mate. To have a great holiday. I won't see you now. Yeah, have a good one, mate.
It's a very different holiday to what you lads do, where you do loads of stuff. I'm going to be like basically in a resort park by a swimming pool. Keep an eye, trying to sneak in a read at some stage while not really buying some hooky football shirts in Egypt.
That sounds good.
That's my kind of holiday, mate.
Sort of a lot of football shirts around Toronto. A lot of Arsenal shirts, JP. You'd be proud. A lot of like the top 4 or 5 Premier League teams, well represented with what's going on there. Culture change. Who knows? No Everton shirts, unfortunately.
Maybe ever since Bukayo Saka's goal against Switzerland, then it'll go up even more. Who can tell?
Very true. But there we go. That's everything for us this week. We'll have weekend show later on the week as well. Thank you to you guys for holding the thought. Thank you, patrons. Thank you, live patrons, for sticking with us late into the night. Thank you to our Kings of the Mountain, Conor Laughlin, Eddie Sarbanes, Chris Platt, who I saw a lot of over there. Toronto weekend. Hopefully he's sleeping like I should be right now. And you and Cameron. And we will catch you all again next week.
Bye.
Ta-da.